Forks up, boys! Whereas ASU football is losing a lot of their top talent to the transfer portal, ASU hockey actually just gained themselves a brand new player. Let's go ahead and take a look at the brand new transfer to ASU from Boston University, Robert Mastrosimone. Fun fact, Robert was picked just 2 picks after current Coyote prospect Vladislav Kolyachonok. Speaking of Mastrosimone in the draft, he was picked by the Detroit Red Wings in the second round of the 2019 NHL entry draft, 54th overall. Mastrosimone played in the USHL for the Chicago Steel, now current teammate Joshua Doan's former team, though he never ended up playing with Donor there, but he did play with Owen Power. Anyway, his first season there, the 2017-18 season, he played in 60 games, scoring 16 goals and 29 assists for 45 points, and the following season, 18-19, he would actually get the A on his jersey, play in 54 games, scoring 31 goals, the same 29 assists, and 60 points, above a point per game player. He also scored 7 goals and 8 assists for 15 points in 11 playoff games, which was up from the previous playoffs, 2 goals and 2 assists in 7 games. Skip ahead to the 2019 draft, he's drafted by the Red Wings, like I mentioned earlier, and then elects to go to college at Boston University, probably a solid decision for him, where he's been playing since 2019-2020. In that first season, in 34 games, he recorded 7 goals and 10 assists for 17 points. The next season, 2021, only playing in 15 games, 3 goals and 5 assists for 8 points, and then this most recent season, 21-22, playing in 34 games, recording 11 goals, 14 assists for 25 points. For context, if he would have played on ASU this most recent season, he would have finished 4th in the team in terms of point scoring. And after watching some of his highlights in Boston College, he actually has a pretty solid pass, as well as a really good shot. In fact, here's a couple of quotes from elite prospects. Quote, "He is the type of player who has a non-stop motor and plays a fearless brand of hockey." That one's from McKeen's Hockey 2019. "Has a quick, accurate release on his shot, and he is an expert at using toe drags to get around defenders." That one was from Future Considerations 2019. And yeah, after watching the highlights, I definitely think that sounds accurate for him. One thing I noticed actually from those highlights, especially on these fast break plays, is that his hands and his head seem to match up pretty well. What I mean by that is whenever he's going for a fast break, he can very quickly turn around and see a teammate pass it over to him, facilitate for an assist, or even haul it over to the net and put it in himself. I'm happy that Mastrosimone chose to transfer to ASU because he's going to be an asset for this team. I'm actually pretty excited to potentially see him play on a line with Josh Doan. Considering the great season Donor had last year, it's going to be a huge asset to have a guy like Mastrosimone on his wing. So to Robert himself, welcome to the desert. Arizona State's glad to have you. To ASU fans, you're getting a pretty solid player here that should fit in well with the system. And also thank you to Access Hockey Michigan for making a nice handy video that taught me how to pronounce Mastrosimone's name. I'm the AZ Sports Guy, and I hope to talk more ASU hockey in the near future. How's it going, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and despite the fact that I dropped out of college like 6 years ago, seems like I still fit in just fine. I mean, I have a deadline, I go ahead and just procrastinate, keep going, then I ask for an extension at the very last minute. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about the Arizona State Sun Devils hockey, and it is just a really exciting time right now because it's back. Hockey is back. I got to go to my first ever game at Oceanside Arena on September 30th, getting to watch the D1 women's game against the University of Utah. It's also where I got this nice hat, and my wife wanted me to wear a dad hat. I wanted to pretend I was still young because 30 is very quickly approaching. We'll go ahead and start off with women's D1 because, well, their season started one day earlier. September 30th, the ASU Sun Devils hosted the University of Utah, and I was surprised to see just how many Utah people were there. Haven't seen that many people from Utah since the last time I went. Anyway, it was my first ever game at Oceanside. I actually didn't know where the arena was, though, for work. I actually drove past it a couple of times without realizing it. Though I am a little curious why they call it Oceanside because, well, all I saw was dirt and cars. Anyway, the Sun Devils would get on the board first at 3:01 of the first period. My future wife, Tristan Craig, scored her first goal of the season and first goal as a Sun Devil on the power play assisted by Gloyd. The game would then borderline be a stalemate until about the last minute, but not because ASU wasn't controlling the game because, well, they controlled the game. They controlled shots throughout the entirety of it. They led the shots after the first period 16-6. The shot differential was even bigger in the second period, leading 17-3, meaning through 2 periods of play, ASU had not even allowed 10 shots on goal. Haley McClelland ended with a 14-save shutout, and Not that she didn't play well or anything. She played pretty well. There's a couple of plays where she had to make some big saves, especially in that third period. There was one play where the puck was literally on the line, and I want to say it was 26 or 16 as one of the defenders went ahead and jumped on it, got it away from the net. I legit thought Utah was going to tie it there. Really good defense, good goaltending, just not a lot of shots getting to her. Utah's goaltender, I do want to go ahead and give her some credit. 47 saves, only 1 goal against, and honestly, this game could have easily been 3-0, 4-0. I'd be stretching it a little bit to say 5-0, but ASU really was controlling the pace of play, and if it wasn't for the goaltender, this could have gotten ugly. Primarily because Utah's defense was just decent, and the offense went back and forth between, we can get a couple of decent shots, and we're just not going to do anything. Anyway, skip ahead to that third period, and with about 40 seconds remaining, the goalie is pulled, and Cameron Kozak, her first goal as an Arizona State Sun Devil, shoots it full ice, it goes in. Utah just kind of watches it go, and it's a pretty hype moment to watch. And the Arizona State Sun Devils start off the season with a win, a 2-0 shutout victory over Utah. They led final shots 49-14. Dominance, just outright dominance, overall pace of play, defense played well. One player on the defensive end that I really want to give a shout out to who played a particularly good game was Berkeley Radcliffe. Please tell me I'm saying your name correctly. But she really reminded me of an old school physical defenseman. I mean, she did a really good job boxing out the offensive players, stripping the puck away. Really physical brand of hockey. So honestly, it was her and another defenseman. I want to say it was number 16. Did a really good job. They were kind of the heart and soul of the defense, in my wife and I's opinion. And just to go ahead and mention the power play stats, ASU went 1 for 4 on their power plays, and University of Utah went 0 for 4. The PK was pretty good. Honestly, I have no complaints. But yeah, really good first game of hockey. I really enjoyed getting to go out there to Oceanside, and good win, 2-0. Then the next day, the same day that the men opened up their season, they would wrap up their 2-game set against University of Utah, winning this one by a final score of 3-2. The goals coming at 21 seconds of the second period. Kozak, her second as a Sun Devil. That one coming from Craig and Walker. At 14:31, Ellie McKenna scored her first goal as an ASU Sun Devil. Maine and Ketchum getting the assist there. And at 16:37 of the second, so all 3 of the goals came in the second period for Arizona State. Martin, her first from Lutch and Collender. Once again, I do apologize if I'm saying names incorrectly. It's going to take me a while to get used to everyone's names. Now, the shot differential is not quite as big as the last game, not quite as ridiculous, only 30-25 in favor of Arizona State. Also, Haley McClelland, after another pretty solid game, 23 saves for, 2 goals against, 2-0 record so far to start the year. And this actually got announced earlier today, so thankfully I actually delayed this so I can throw it in here. So the women's D1 team will actually make their debut at the Mullet Arena on October 12th, 2022. This one was actually really confusing for me, so when you click on the link that they put on their Twitter account, it showed ASU volleyball, but then the tickets themselves say exhibition game. It turns out on the 12th, the men will have an exhibition game at 6 o'clock, and an hour later, the women will go ahead and take the ice for a bonus game. It was added to the schedule against GCU. I was confused about this because, as you know, I take notes for all of this, so I actually have all of the games listed in a notebook over there. So I did reach out to the official ASU women's hockey Twitter account, just DM them and said, hey, is this going to be an exhibition game or is it a game that's added to the schedule? It is an official game, so there you go. I know I got my tickets secured. Hopefully I'll be available to go, but I wanted to get the tickets out of the way first. They were free to claim, so I just want to go ahead and say this right now. You owe it to yourself to go ahead and check out the ASU Division I women's team because it's a pretty exciting brand of hockey. Going into this game, I was expecting a lot more skill. What is it, the PWHL? I was always used to everyone saying it's a more skill-based game, not as physical, not as physical. The brand of hockey I saw Arizona State playing on the 30th was just a more traditional, kind of fast and physical brand of hockey, so I think you'll have a lot of fun watching it. I highly recommend going and checking out that game. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the ASU Sun Devils men's hockey team. Their season starting on October 1st, the 1st and 2nd at Minnesota Duluth. And while I did not get to watch either of these games, I was working for one of them, and I also have no idea how to watch the games, I'm assuming on the Pac-12 network, but I don't have the Pac-12 network, so I guess I'm just going to follow Craig Morgan, and I recommend you do the same on Twitter. And from what he said, it was a really tight, close, even game that Minnesota Duluth ends up winning 3-2 in overtime. ASU gets on the board first at 5:59 of the first. Judson his first from Jensen and O'Reilly. So a couple of familiar names there if you've been paying attention to ASU hockey. And then at 1:03 of the third period, Luke Sillinger, the newbie from Robert Mastromoni, another new player. Pretty much most of the top 6 is brand new. I know Joshua Doan and one other player whose name is escaping me. I'm pretty sure he'll get made fun of for that in the comments, but Matthew Copperwood, that's who I was thinking of earlier. Everyone except for Joshua Doan and Matthew Copperwood are brand new in the top 6. There you go. Brand new goaltender TJ Septemfelter, 35 saves in his Sun Devil debut. Gives up 3 goals. Honestly, I don't see it as a big deal. He's played very well. He also has a solid game in his second game as an ASU Sun Devil. I like Ben Cross. Literally not a single thing against Ben Cross. He looked okay in the rookie tournament for the Coyotes, but TJ Septemfelter is just kind of on a different level. Honestly, he's a just phenomenal goaltender. So anyway, they lose 3-2 on the first. Going into the second, they do get on the board first. At 2:17 of the second, Demetrius Kuzmuntsis, please tell me I'm saying your name correctly as well, from Grando, that's 1-0 ASU. Just to surrender 4 unanswered goals. Septemfelter had another 35 save effort, though this time he faced 1 more shot, giving up 4 goals instead of 3. I really, like I said, don't have any complaints against how he's played from what I can tell. It's just kind of... Minnesota Duluth, I'm pretty sure, was ranked 5 in like the little pre-rankings going into it, and considering the fact that ASU, who is not ranked, goes into this and still looks as good as they did in that first game and competes, I don't really have any complaints there. The next couple of games are this weekend on the 7th and 8th at Bemidji State. Once again, I really hope I'm pronouncing that one right. Look, I know I'll get him eventually, but there you go. I've only ever heard the name stated once to me, and that was by my co-host Richie. So there you go. Got some exciting games coming up for both ASU women's and ASU men's. Though, through the first 2 games, the ASU women are 2-0, while the men are 0-2, so I guess ladies first when it comes to winning. But anyway, I'm the AZ Sports Guy. Thank you so much for watching. I'm just really excited that hockey season is back, and go Devils. Backstreet's back, alright. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here. Let's go ahead and talk about some Arizona State University hockey, because last night, or I'll probably post this tomorrow, 2 nights ago as of the time you're watching, I got to watch my first hockey game in the Mullet Arena. That was a lot of fun. I get to talk a little bit about the last couple of matchups for the ASU men's, as well as their home opener for the season, starting on the 14th and 15th against Colgate. A lot to talk about. So we'll go ahead and start off with the women. They had that bonus game last night against GCU where they won the game by a final score of 4-2, and because the note takers haven't updated the notes, that's all you're getting out of me. ASU got off to a hot start last night. Within 22 seconds, there was already a penalty, a power play, and a power play goal. Then 2 unanswered goals in the second period, as well as one that I unfortunately called. There will be a goal in this possession. Why not? I'll call it. Call it right now. Goal right there. Never mind. Never mind. I don't call a goal. I don't call a goal. I do not call a goal. I take it. They scored. When my wife made me leave and they're down 2-1, I'm like, hey, the ASU women are going to win 4-2. There you go. And they actually ended up winning 4-2. Though on the vlog, I did say 3-2. With the 4-2 victory over GCU, the ASU women's hockey team improves to 3-0-0 on the season. And just for context, it's going to take the men a minimum of 5 games to reach 2 wins, the same amount of wins that ASU women's had 2 games into the season, and it will also take a minimum of 6 games for the men to hit the same amount of wins as the women have currently 3 games into the season. Why do I bring all that up? Because since I don't have the numbers in front of me for the game they won last night, I do have to talk about something and put in some effort here. Now let's talk about the boys. They had a couple of games against Bemidji State, please tell me I'm saying that right, on October 8th and 7th. I don't know why I said it backwards. We're going to go ahead and roll with it. Anyway, the boys showed up, beat the Beavers, then got beaten by the Beavers, so normal college experience. The first game on the 7th, a 3-0 victory for the Arizona State Sun Devils. The first goal of the game goes to Matthew Copperwood, his first of the year. That one coming at 15:32 of the first from Dylan Jackson. We go all the way to the third period next, where Niedermeyer gets his first goal of the year about 3 minutes into the third. And then finally, with about 20 or so seconds left, Ty Murchison, his first goal of the year, a 3-0 victory and a 40-save shutout for TJ Septemfelter. It's his first shutout at the NCAA level. Kind of don't believe that because, well, he's a damn good goaltender. And all the way throughout this series, the first 4 games of the year, he's averaging like 35 saves a night. He's a damn good goalie, TJ Septemfelter. Like I said, nothing against Krebs. We have a much better goaltender this year. Moving on to the matchup on the 8th. This was actually a close one going to overtime, making it ASU's second overtime loss of the year. I already kind of spoiled how they won one and lost one. They lose this one by a final score of 5-2 in a game that they never held the lead in. In the first period, down 2-0, just under 11 minutes into that period, Matthew Copperwood, his second second goal in back-to-back games, that one coming from Doan and Sillinger. Then about a minute and a half later, Joshua Doan gets his first goal of the year. That one's coming from Lucas Sillinger, and now we're tied. Bemidji State scores to retake the lead, but then with about 20 or so seconds left in the first period, Robert Mastrosimone, his first goal as an Arizona State Sun Devil, and we are tied going into the second period. Bemidji scores again, but then just over 15 minutes into the second period, Mastrosimone once again, second goal of the night. That one coming from Donor and Lavelle. Donor with a goal and 2 assists on the night. Sends it into overtime, then about 5 minutes in, Bemidji State scores. They lose by a final score of 5-4. Standout players for the game had to be Robert Mastrosimone with a couple of goals and Joshua Doan, who was scoreless the first 3 games of the season, then walks out of Game 4 with 3 points. Septenfelter gets a 35-save loss, and I swear he has never recorded less than 35 saves with an ASU Sun Devil. It could be because the opposing offenses are really good, could be because ASU's defense is not as good as you'd like, could be both. I mean, let's be honest here. ASU primarily added via the goaltending position as well as extra forwards and scoring wingers, not exactly with defensemen over the offseason. Real quick, before we end this report, let's go ahead and talk about the games that are upcoming. I already mentioned the one on the 14th and the 15th against Colgate for the men. And then in a little over a week, the ASU women return to ice, and they will be going over to the East Coast. I think it's the University of Massachusetts, something or other, on the 21st and 22nd. So there will be some ASU hockey to talk about in a week or so. Anyway, that's about all I got for you. I'm the AZ Sports Guy. Go away. I know I talked about it in the last Sun Devil report, but the notes are finalized. Let's go ahead and talk about that women's game at home against GCU on the 12th, just so you can at least have the numbers. 22 seconds into the first period, you already know what happens. Mason Walker, her first, bada bing, bada boom, 1-0 ASU. Then in the second period, you had the back-to-back unanswered to put GCU up 2-1 going into the third, including the goal that I called. I apologized already. Then there were 3 unanswered goals by ASU to win this one 4-2, just like I said on Twitter. Ignore what I said in the vlog. First, those goals coming at 8:15 of the third. Morgan Walker, second of the night from Cameron Kozak. Then shorthanded at 12:12, Ketchum, her first. Then at 19:01, Pladson, her first from Walker and Collender. All in all, the ASU women beat the GCU women 4-2 and improved to 3-0-0 on the season. Still more wins than the men at the end of the weekend. Haley McClelland, 24 saves, 2 goals against, improving to 3-0-0 on the season. And they get like a week and a half off, so I'll see you next time. Let's go ahead and move on to October 14th, the home opener at Mullet Arena. The game that I should have sold my PS5 to get a ticket to, but I chose not to because I'm an ass. Where the ASU men hosted Colgate. First goal of the season. You want to know who it goes to? The man, the myth, the legend, the son of legendary Coyote Shane Doan. Joshua Doan records his first goal of the season right over there by the student section, absolutely erupting and going wild, and man, I should have bought a ticket to go. Hey, Matt while editing here. I meant to say Doan's first goal at the Mullet Arena, not first of the season. I want to say it's his second so far. Manage your money well, kids, or else you're going to be like me. Bitter I didn't get to go watch Joshua Doan score the first goal in Mullet Arena history. That one coming at 9:14 of the first from Lucas Sillinger and Jackson Niedermeyer. Then at the second period at 5:44, once again, Ryan O'Reilly taking a break from playing with the St. Louis Blues, scoring his first of the year from Jensen. And that's your final, 2-0. TJ Septenfelter recording his second shutout as an ASU Sun Devil, and his first at home, in his first start in the new Mullet Arena. Good things are on the horizon, surely. Oh, how many saves did he have? Just 30. Yeah, I know, pedestrian, kind of mediocre, right? Yeah, no. By his standards, he has still yet to record less than 30 saves in a single game, single start so far, as an ASU Sun Devil. This kid is a workhorse. Anyway, he improves to 2-3-0 in the year. Now let's go ahead and skip ahead to the second matchup on the 15th, a game that I actually got to watch because I figured out, I don't know if it's this way with every game, but on the Pac-12 network app thing, whatever, you can watch the games for free. I didn't know that. Now I do. Even if it's a rare occurrence, there you go. I found a way you guys can watch it. I guarantee you guys already knew that. I'm just an idiot. Anyway, on the 15th, let's just not sugarcoat it here. They got shut out 4-0. Probably should have been 5-0. There was another third goal of the game that got disallowed. It got taken back due to an offside, but Colgate ends up winning it 4-0. Really no fight. There's a couple of good drives, good plays by ASU, but just they got outplayed, outperformed. They lose that game. TJ Septemfelter falls down to 2-4-0. And it really disappointed me, not because they lost, but because the first goal of the game in the first period, TJ Septemfelter, he pulled a Mike Smith going out of the net and letting in a goal on a wide open net because the goalie wasn't there. And look, I get it. Goalies like having those exciting plays. They can get up, they can, extend around, move the puck. Oh, hey, it looks good on a highlight. This is going to happen. A little annoying, but I'm going to look even dumber if the games I didn't get to watch, he gave up the exact same goal, and it's like, why are you complaining about it now? I just get to watch it now. Sue me. Please don't. For legal reasons, that was a joke. Please do not sue me. I am broke. Anyway, the ASU men are now 2-4-0 on the season. They have at the very least gone 500 in the last two series, splitting both of them, but the two losses against Minnesota Duluth kind of coming back to bite them right now. Their next matchups at Mullet Arena are on the 21st and 22nd, hosting Colorado College, so hopefully they'll be 500. I'll be able to, make the next report, and they're 4-4-0. Let's be real, 3-5-0. Come on, boys, 500 hockey the rest of the way. Forks up, let's go. Sarcasm aside, it was really cool to see Joshua Doan just score that goal, the first in Mullet Arena history, and that is a special moment. That is a historical moment. That's something that everyone in there is never going to forget. He's never going to forget. And it's so significant to Arizona hockey to where, the royal bloodline of Arizona hockey, the Doans, have been involved in just so much with hockey here in the community and everything, and just, it couldn't have gone to a better person. Honestly, it couldn't have gone to a better player. You literally couldn't write this script any better. And it was just, still gonna kick myself in the tushy for missing that game, because, well, man, that would have been a really cool story to tell. Maybe I'd tell my nephew, I'm not gonna have kids, so I could tell my nephew, hey, I was there when Josh Doan scored the first goal at the Mullet Arena. You know what? I was there when Mason Walker scored her first goal of the season, 22 seconds in on the 12th. So technically, I was there for the first goal of Mullet Arena history. I was technically there, not for the ASU men, but for the ladies. So thank you for the free tickets. It wasn't for me specifically. Everyone got free tickets, but that's why my broke self was able to go.
What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and yeah, I know, I am beyond late with this. I do apologize. I've been busy with work and or just exhausted when I get off work. So without delaying any further, let's get right into the news. I do, however, want it on record that this is dated for the 14th. It is currently the 17th. If I wasn't terrible at math, I would say I was only a day behind. Anyway, as per usual, ladies first, go ahead and start off with ASU women's hockey taking on GCU, and they suffered their first loss of the season. I know, season's already over, just absolutely terrible. Both meetings were in Oceanside. The first of the two was on November 4th. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. 2.5 minutes in, Pladsen, her second from Bridal, and right there, 1-0 Sun Devils. Oh, it's 20 seconds later. Mason Walker scored her 7th goal of the season from Tristan Craig and Cameron Kozak. It is 2-0, that one coming on the power play. Then GCU scores a couple of goals, but honestly, it's not that important because ASU scores to retake the lead 3-2. McKenna, her second from Bridal, about 4.5 minutes into the second period. GCU ties it up, not really important because about 2 minutes into the third period, Satura gets her first goal of the season. It's the game winner, 4-3 victory. Moving on to the next game. Alright, I'm not actually going to brush past it that quickly. Mason Walker had a goal, Bridal had a couple of assists, and the goaltender Haley McClellan. 26 saves, 3 goals against, but does record the win, 7-0-0 record on the season. Then we head into the matchup on the 5th. GCU scores first, ASU answers back. McKenna, her third of the season, and second in 2 nights from Radcliffe to tie it up. It says 0 seconds into the second period. GCU scores again, but then Mason Walker once more, her 8th of the season, and yes, second in the last 2 games, ties it back up at 2. Then GCU scores twice more, and the final score is 4-2. I mean, the winning streak was going to come to an end eventually. They did win their first 7 games, which is ridiculously impressive, and they end the weekend with a 7-1-0 record. The backup goaltender, Hellman, 17 saves, 3 goals against. McClellan did play as well for about 20 minutes, but didn't end up getting the loss. It was Hellman. And to cap off the ASU women's hockey news, at the end of that weekend, they were officially ranked. They are ranked number 8 overall. And looking through the stats and seeing how many more games every other team has played than ASU, I am confused how this league operates. Anyway, moving on to the boys. They had that weekend off, but they had last weekend to play. Start off the scoring, ASU at 13:52, Ty Jackson, his second goal of the season. But about a minute later, Jensen, his second goal of the season from O'Reilly and Judson, and I swear the fact that there are so many similar names on this team, it's pretty funny. Mike Gold brought it up on Twitter. It's funny. Alaska Anchorage scores to answer back, it's 2-1, but really, let's not go ahead and sweat that, because ASU would then score 3 unanswered goals. 13:21 of the second, Dylan Jackson, his first of the season, that one coming from Judson and Ty Jackson. So yes, the Jackson brothers are connecting for goals now. 40 seconds later on the power play, Joshua Doan, his third goal of the season, that one coming from Lucas Sillinger and Matthew Copperwood, 4-1. Then about 3 minutes later, short-handed mind you, Judson gets his second goal of the season from Joshua Doan and Robert Mastrosimone, and that is your final 5-2. I don't care about the last Alaska goal, doesn't really matter. It would be the last goal that Alaska would score for the remainder of the weekend. TJ Septenfelter, 30 saves, 2 goals against, a 6-4-0 record after that game. Moving on. The game on the 12th was just, it was a shutout. TJ Septenfelter honestly kind of made it look easy, and to be fair, when you're only facing 19 shots, it probably is, but he records his third shutout of the season. Why did I skip over the goals? I didn't skip over the goals, just rewind this real quick. ASU would start the scoring off with about 3 minutes to go in the second period. Lucas Sillinger, his second of the season on the power play from Doan and Copperwood. Going into the third period, about 8 minutes in, ASU gets another one. This one, Ryan O'Reilly once again taking a night off from the St. Louis Blues to score for the Devils. It is his third of the season. That one coming from Jensen and Alexander. Then to cap off the night with just a little over a minute remaining, Grando gets his first from Judson. And your final is 3-0. TJ Septenfelter, like I said, his third shutout of the season. He only had 19 saves. You make it look easy when your defense is playing well and Alaska Anchorage can't shoot. 7-4-0 record, the same record as the Arizona State Sun Devils, and they're just kind of moving up in the power ranking. And by that I mean they're getting closer to a playoff spot. I say that pretending like I even know how the college playoff structure works. Coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday, the women are at home taking on Colorado State at Oceanside Arena, and the boys, they're at Clarkson. I don't know where Clarkson is. My coworker said probably East Coast. I'm going to say Montana because it's funny. Over the weekend, the Arizona State Sun Devils played a couple of games. Also over the weekend, the Arizona State Sun Devils didn't play a couple of games. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go ahead and start off with the bad news. So, the ASU women's hockey team, they were supposed to host Colorado State for a couple of games over at Oceanside. Both those games were canceled, and they were canceled on Thursday. No official reason that I can see was given, though I am going to assume it was some sort of weather/travel related thing, because why else would you cancel a college game instead of rescheduling? So it's kind of all that really makes sense to me. That's enough with the bad news. Let's talk about the boys. The ASU men went all the way to New York to take on Clarkson, and they really needed to win at least one of these games. They did not win at least one of those games. What was it with this last week in Arizona not being able to beat the Golden Knights? For those of you who don't know, Clarkson are the Golden Knights. The Coyotes lost to the Golden Knights like last Thursday, and I'm gonna shut up now. Anyway, Clarkson scores first, but in the second period at about 13-11, Lavelle scores his second goal of the season, that one coming from Robert Mastrosimone and Joshua Doan. So yes, we do have a little bit of Doan watch to talk about. He's watching. That was stupid. That was that was stupid. Anyway, the game goes down to the wire, and I think about 30 seconds remaining in regulation, Clarkson scores, 2-1 final. ASU falls to 7-5-0 at that point, but TJ Septenfelter had himself a pretty good game. 23 saves, 2 goals against. It was not his fault. For whatever reason, the ASU offense definitely seems to have just, well, Craig Morgan said it pretty well, kind of fell off. That's a heavy paraphrase because I have bad memory. Then we go to the next night on the 19th, where it was a little more lively, a little more scoring. It was a 5-3 finish, and ASU didn't win. But they did start off the scoring. 11:57 into the first period, Dylan Jackson is second from his twin Ty Jackson, as well as Lavelle, the goal scorer in the last game. 1-0 ASU. Clarkson scores back-to-back goals, 2-1 Clarkson. But then on the power play, 3 minutes, 18 seconds into the third period, Lucas Sillinger scoring his fourth goal of the season from Josh Doan and Robert Mastrosimone. Clarkson scores a couple more goals, not really important. Then 11 minutes later, Joshua Doan scoring his fourth goal of the season, that one coming from Robert Mastrosimone and Matthew Copperwood. Scores 3-4 at that point. Clarkson scores again, 5-3 finish, and the Arizona State Sun Devils, despite the fact they needed at least to split that series, they get swept, they fall to 7-6-0 on the season, and it makes their ability to be able to make the NCAA tournament just that much more difficult. Septenfelter, 19 saves, 5 goals against, wasn't exactly his best outing, but he's been really good all season. I think he has about a .933 save percentage. He's top 6 or 7 in the NCAA right now. I can give him a pass there. But yeah, they fall to 7-6-0, but I'm not going to leave it off on some bad news because that's kind of stupid. So let's go ahead and talk about the good news. That is a couple of streaks. We have exactly 2-point streaks, one going to Joshua Doan and one going to Robert Mastrosimone. Kinda. So Mastrosimone has 3 assists in the last 2 games, but 2 games isn't really a point streak. It's got to be a minimum of 3, but I'm going to make an exception because I like to talk about good stuff. Anyway, Josh Doan in his last 4 games, 2 goals, 4 assists. It's always nice to have a donor in Arizona. It's always nice to have a donor scoring in Arizona, and probably one of the better parts of the team right now. All right, so the next couple of games for the men is coming up against Minnesota this weekend on the 25th and 26th. Yes, Coyotes prospect Logan Cooley, his Minnesota hockey team. So there you go. And the women, they don't play again until they play Liberty University on the 2nd and 3rd of next month. There you go. Class dismissed. Go away. I don't get paid enough for this.
Oh, hey there. I'm just looking over the ASU notes for the last couple of weeks, and spoiler alert, they kind of suck. Let's go ahead, put on my ASU hat, and let's talk about this. So, ladies first, obviously, they had a couple of games over the weekend at Oceanside against the #1 ranked team, the ACHA, Liberty University, and they lost those games handily by a final score of 10-2 on Friday and 8-2 on Saturday for a final score of 18-4 over the last 2 games. Shots were 21-0 at the end of the first period on Friday. I left when it was 6-0 at the end of the second period. Look, I'm not gonna lie, I will always support Arizona hockey, but I had better things to do that night, like play with Digimon cards. Oh, right, back to this. So, McClellan gets both losses, her first 2 losses on the season. Over these 2 games, she got pulled after 40 minutes in the first game, played the entire second game. She saved a total of 82 shots in those 2 games. And mind you, that is not a full 2 games. That is about, 100 minutes, 5 periods out of a total of 6? I don't really know what to say there. But there was one positive, that one being Ellie McKenna, who had 3 goals over those 2 games. Congratulations. That was really, something. Look, I understand they did have the last couple of games canceled, but just when you're hosting #1 overall, you can't come out that sluggish, and they were sluggish in both games. Now, to be fair, Liberty is just ridiculously good. I didn't expect ASU to win both, but I was really hoping for at least one. And you know who did get at least one win over the last 4 games? That is the ASU men. Now, it's funny enough, I don't remember if I said it on the video, but I was talking about it at work, where I'm like, look, if ASU, they're going up against #2 and then #1 ranked, if they can get 1 game out of the 4, I'll be happy. Well, they did get 1 game out of those 4. I don't think the players are going to take that as some sort of moral victory, but they did get 1. So on Black Friday, November 25th, the ASU Sun Devils hosted Logan Cooley, Matthew Nyes, and the Minnesota Golden Gophers, #2 overall team, and it was actually a pretty solid game 1. To be completely honest here, they were both really good games. ASU skated well with them, even though, yes, Minnesota was overall the better team. Arizona State also weren't pushovers. So Minnesota scores the first couple of goals, but then in the second period, about 3 minutes in, Dylan Jackson, his 3rd goal of the season, that one coming from Lavelle and Hickey. So it's 2-1, ASU is right back into it. Enter Logan Cooley. Look, as an Arizona Coyotes fan, I am absolutely ecstatic that that boy went out there and he scored this goal. He looks phenomenal. He is going to be a phenomenal top 6 player for the Coyotes. That is all great. But for these games in the mullet, I don't know if you can tell, ASU fan first, fan of a Coyotes prospect second, and I'm walking around the concourse. I didn't even get to see the goal itself. I just knew they scored. I look over, I see Cooley celebrating. I didn't even realize it was him at the time. Then my wife sends me a text, "Did you see that goal?" And the bastard pulled a Michigan. I know he personally doesn't like calling it the Michigan, but he did pull it. It's one of the most electrifying goals I've ever been there present live to see, and I wasn't even looking at the ice at the time. Anyway, that aside, it's 3-1 Minnesota, but with about 3 minutes remaining, Ryan Alexander scoring his 2nd goal of the season. That one coming from Demetrius Kumuntzis, and one final push just wasn't enough. They pulled a goaltender, nothing doing. A final score of 3-2, and to be completely honest here, that was a really good effort against the #2 ranked overall team, and honestly, I'm satisfied with that. I am more than satisfied with that level of effort, but I did want at least 1 win. Move along to the next game. The game that next night, on Saturday the 26th, was one of the most back-and-forth games I've ever seen in a long time. It was such a good, competitive, offensive game. Defense, yeah, no, I'm not going to excuse that. Goaltending, look, TJ's a brick wall. The last game, he only had, I think, 18 saves. This game, 21. It wasn't about shot volume here, right? It wasn't about the volume of shots. It was about the quality of the offensive chances. Anyway, a little over 8 minutes into the first period, Ryan Alexander's 2nd goal of the last couple of nights, 3rd of the season, putting him on the board first. The assist going to Judson and Robert Mastrosimone. I will be talking about Mastrosimone a little bit more later on, so preview, I guess. Anyway, Minnesota scores a couple of times, but Demetrius Kumuntzis is like, nah, we're not gonna do this. And at 6:21, he gets his 3rd goal of the season from Ryan Ryan O'Reilly once again taking a break from playing for St. Louis to play for ASU. No, I am not tired of that joke. If you're tired of that joke, let me know. I mean, I'm not going to stop making it, but you can let me know. Also, Tim Lavelle gets the other. Then about a minute later, Ty Jackson from Robert Mastrosimone and Joshua Doan, the Arizona State Sun Devils, take their second lead of the night. It is 3-2. Student section's going crazy. The arena's going nuts. There was more than 5,000 people in attendance for both of these games. I think game 1 was like 5,109. Game 2 is a little above that. I don't know how. I don't understand. The listed capacity is 5,000 for ASU, but they found a way to get more people in the building. Anyway, Minnesota scores to tie it up. Doesn't really matter because shortly after, Ryan Alexander, second of the night, fourth of the season, ASU takes the lead right back. It is 4-3. Oh, and Robert Mastrosimone gets another assist on that goal. But Minnesota scores twice more because they just can't go away. But with just over 3 minutes to go in regulation time, Dylan Jackson gets his fourth goal of the season from Matthew Comparud. We are all tied. We are going to overtime. And in the overtime, it's a little over 3 minutes in. It's a little bit of back and forth. TJ had a big save or two. But the play that made everyone freak out, including me, because I was sitting there in the tunnel watching it. Great seats, by the way. Well, great standing room view. But anyway, Joshua Doan finds Robert Mastrosimone, goes in on the goaltender, and scores his 6th goal of the season. And ASU upsets number 2 Minnesota at home in front of the mullet crowd of rowdy ASU students and drunk adults. Septenfelter gets the win for that one. 8-0 record for him as well. He started all the games, and it's just, we're all excited, we're all happy. Now you go into Denver, and can you get one more? Can you ride this wave to get one more victory and to split the series? No. No, they cannot. Alright, so I'll be brief with this one. I'll just show you the notes right now. So that game, Denver scores first. Lavelle is third from Alexander and Mastrosimone at 6:37 of the second period. We're tied. Little under 4 minutes into the third period. Alexander is fifth from Comparud and Mastrosimone. ASU takes their first lead. Then ASU gives up 2 back-to-back goals, including a goal where it was initially called no goal on the ice. Mind you, no goal on the ice. Puck is up in the air. Tim Lavelle tries to bat the puck away with his glove. You can then see a Denver player, high-sticking the puck, trying to slash it down. I don't care if ASU still loses that game. It does not matter to me. Look, I think, Greg Power said it very well in the post-game interview, saying that they did not deserve to win, but their goaltender sure did. TJ Septenfelter had a phenomenal game in that first matchup against Denver. 27 saves, 3 goals against. Honestly, it should have only been 2 goals against, but we'll talk about it. So, my understanding of NHL rules, college is a little bit different, but if the puck is in the air and your stick is above the crossbar and you slash it down, it should not be a goal. Now, in order to overturn a no-goal call, you have to have overwhelming evidence that it was a goal, and from what you can tell, it looks like he slashes Lavelle's glove or slashes the puck around Lavelle's glove, and then it goes off his glove and in. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I think that was the wrong call. I don't care if ASU still loses. I don't care if it goes to overtime and ASU loses. That's not what's important. What's important to me is the fact that I feel, so does Craig Morgan on Twitter, I do not think that should have been a goal. I do not think that's how you want to lose a game. I really think that should have just been a no-goal call on the ice. So all of that being said, I guess it really doesn't matter anymore because the next game, they got blown out 5-2. O'Reilly had a goal and an assist. Lagerback had a goal. I'm not really going to go too deep into that one because they just straight up got blasted. I mean, Ben Cross came in relief for TJ Septenfelter. That is Ben Cross's first ice time all season. 11 saves, 1 goal against. He has above a 900 save percentage. Good for him there, but it's just, is it really worth talking about? They legit got just kind of blasted on that one. I don't really know what else to say. Mastrosimone, in just 2 of the games we were talking about, I'll move on to streaks right now. Mastrosimone had 3 goals and 3 assists in 2 games over that 4-goal span. I just couldn't put it as a streak, but the only official streak, Ryan Alexander, kind of surprising, but he's playing really well right now. 3 goals and 2 assists in 3 games, though it was broken in the last game, the 5-2 loss against Denver. As for the ASU women, Mason Walker, 2 goals, 2 assists in 4 games, and Ellie McKenna, 5 goals in 4 games. Pretty much the only 2 consistently productive players on the team right now. They got about a month till their next game. So the next game is hosting St. Norbert. They're an NCAA Division II team. I would love them to get at least one victory there, but we'll wait. We'll wait and see. That's on December 30th and 31st. Yes, you only get 4 women's games all month. I don't know how that works, but it is what it is. And the boys, this weekend on Saturday, or Friday and Saturday, they are at New Hampshire, so they need to bounce back. They need to win both of these. They are currently 8-9-0. They need to come back home 10-9-0, because right now, in order for them to be ranked, they need to start pulling off some wins. I understand they lost to really good opponents, but if they want to make the NCAA tournament, they have to start winning games. There's no excuses, no ifs, ands, or buts. They have to start winning these games. They have to start getting above 500. Because if they would have managed to push that game against Denver into overtime, that goal ends up not counting, they'd be ranked somewhere around, I think, 21 to 26 right now. They would be a ranked team, as it stands right now. As it stands right now, they are currently not ranked. So look, this team is really good. I'm not going to say they're a terrible team. They're a good team. Powers is a good coach. They have a good core here. They need to start getting a couple of series sweeps. They did do that before, but getting swept by Clarkson, then coming home and splitting with number 2 overall and getting swept by number 1 overall, it's bad luck. But they needed to win at least one of those games against Clarkson because it makes making the tournament that much more difficult. So all I'm saying is, they gotta get some W's, boys. Get it going. I need you to sweep New Hampshire. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Turn in your homework, I don't know, in the comments. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and after back-to-back matchups against the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams in the nation, Arizona State would then go to New Hampshire to face a team that hasn't won a game since, like, October. So, you know, it should be a pretty easy sweep, or at the very least, a decently easy sweep. They should move on to being 10-9-0, coming back to the mullet at the end of the month, and, winter break, holiday break, that should all be pretty good, right? You sweet summer child. Okay, well, at the very least, the weekend did start off positively so. December 9th and December 10th were the 2 games they played in New Hampshire, and a little under 5.5 minutes into that first game, Matthew Copperwood, a name I haven't got to say in a while, at the very least goal-scoring wise, his 4th of the season from Robert Mastrosimone and Lucas Sillinger, 1-0 ASU. ASU would maintain that 1-0 lead all the way till about 7 minutes and 44 seconds into the third period, where Jack Judson would score his 3rd goal of the season from Grando and Kumunsis. It is 2-0 ASU. I just like saying his name that way. New Hampshire scores, cutting ASU's lead in half, and who else but Joshua Doan? Don't watch. He's watching you. I have no idea how my mother-in-law fixed this, but thank you. Anyway, that's a shorthanded goal coming at 15:06, Doaner's 5th goal of the season. It's 3-1 ASU, and then about 4 minutes later, on the empty net, Lucas Sillinger, his 5th goal of the season, and that first game against New Hampshire, it is a 4-1 victory. ASU goes back to 500, 9-9-0, and TJ Septenfelter getting his 9th win of the season, posting up 40 saves. Probably one of at least 2 players in the team I need to get a jersey for, by the way. Helping lead the Sun Devils to a 4-1 victory in the first game. How did the next game go? Well, it did happen. ASU would take the lead. Eckerly gets his first goal of the season a little over 2.5 minutes in. Things are looking good. Well, okay, they would continue to look good because about 13 minutes later, a shorthanded goal, mind you, Demetrius Kumunsis gets his 5th of the season from Schmaggy and Eckerly. It is 2-0 ASU, same thing as the last game. Unfortunately, unlike the last game, ASU would then give up 3 unanswered goals. They go down 3-2. But at 7:48, Lucas Sillinger gets his 6th goal of the season to tie it. That one coming from Robert Mastrosimone and Jack Judson, just to have New Hampshire score and retake the lead. But on the power play at about 15.5 minutes in, Matthew Copperwood, his 5th goal of the season, that one coming from Robert Mastrosimone and Lucas Sillinger. We're all tied at 4. We're going to overtime, and, well, in the overtime period, New Hampshire scores and wins. Yep, the Arizona State Sun Devils in a series they absolutely did need to sweep to kind of keep those NCAA playoff hopes alive. Well, NCAA tournament, playoffs, look, I don't really know how college works. I dropped out of community college. Yep, they dropped that one 5-4 against New Hampshire. And look, it's not Arizona State's fault. Their last 2 opponents were the number 2 ranked Minnesota and number 1 ranked Denver. It's not exactly their fault they only managed to win one of those 3 games. They were all competitive. At the very least, 3 of the 4 games were competitive. It was a really good effort by Arizona State. But you're facing off a team that hasn't won a game since October. Look, going into this series, they had only won 4 games in the season. ASU is the better team. They needed to prove it, and I understand you put a team's back against the wall. There are no easy victories. New Hampshire needed to get a win. They did. But what it really comes down to is Arizona State, in order to really take that next step and, again, get into the NCAA tournament, you got to win games like this. You have to be able to sweep opponents like this, and it's just kind of disappointing. Obviously, I'm still going to be here cheering for ASU, still going to be here covering ASU because, well, those are my boys, but it's just kind of disappointing. Regardless, it was still a good effort. It was at the very least still a close game throughout, but the fact they had a 2-0 lead, giving up 3 unanswered, not a recipe for success. Felter, 10th loss of the season, 9-10-0 record, 20 saves, 5 goals against. It was one of those nights. It is what it is. ASU men's and women's hockey do not play again until the 30th and 31st. Both are going to be home games. For women, it'll be against St. Norbert. I believe they're a Division II NCAA team. That's going to take place at Oceanside. And for the boys, at the Mullet Arena against Boston College. Your homework for this week will be to tell me how bad my pronunciations were. Regardless, good effort by the boys. I really just wish you would have got that second win, but come back against Boston College. You got to get at least one of those two. Can't wait to see you guys back at the Mullet in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your holiday break, and let's go Devils. It's Wednesday, my dudes. What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here. You know what? Day late, dollar short. Let's not waste any time. ASU hockey report. We'll go ahead and start off with the ASU women's club team, who was supposed to have a couple of games against D2 NCAA St. Norbert. Both of those games were canceled. Meaning, yes, of the last 6 games they were scheduled to play, 4 of those were canceled. Genuinely wish they were at least NCAA Division II, because I feel like if that were the case, there would be less games canceled. Alright, enough of that. Let's talk about the boys. On the 30th and 31st, they hosted Boston College, and in the first game, they got blown out. Boston College scored the first couple of goals, but on the power play of the first period, ASU did at least cut the lead down to 1. Dylan Jackson from Jack Judson and Ty Jackson, so yes, once again, the Jackson brothers connecting at 5:42 of the first. It's 2-1 Boston College. Boston College scores once more, making it a 3-1 lead, but 54 seconds into that second period, Ryan O'Reilly taking a break from being injured for the St. Louis Blues, scoring his 5th goal of the season for Arizona State. The assists going to Demetrius Kumantzis and Tim Lavelle. I just like saying his name that way. It's funny. Anyway, Boston scores 2 more goals. Your final score is 5-2. TJ gets the loss. 9-11-0 record, same as the ASU Sun Devils. 39 saves, 5 goals against. Honestly, I really can't blame TJ for most of those goals, but at the same time, 5 goals against, not going to get it done. Only 2 goals scored, generally not going to get it done. Except for, oddly enough, the next night. So New Year's Eve, ASU would score 2 goals once more, but this time, they'd win the game. 8:55 of the second period, on the power play, Joshua Doan, his 6th goal of the season. The assist going to Lucas Sillinger and Robert Mastro Simone. Boston scores to answer back, but that's not really important because in the third period, exactly 6 minutes in, Ethan Schmaggy, his 1st goal of the season, the assists going to Chris Grando and Ryan O'Reilly. 2 points in 2 games for him. ASU splits the series of Boston College, 2-1 victory that time around. TJ Septemfelter, 10th win of the season, a cool 41 saves. This kid is a wall. There are no active point streaks, unfortunately, but you know what? I will take the split, though coming up, they do need to start getting some series sweeps. I do have to agree with Craig Morgan. They need to pick up the pace, and I think it's of the next 10 games, they have to win 8 or 9 of them. They have to win like 10 games to end the season to make the NCAA tournament, or at the very least have a good chance at making the tournament. I think they can do it, but, you know, a little bit of pressure. Anyway, the next game's coming up for the women this weekend on the 7th and 8th at home against University of Denver. Going to assume those will be taking place at Oceanside Arena, because at the Mullet Arena this weekend, we're having the Desert Hockey Classic. There's going to be some interesting teams playing. I think it's, Michigan or Michigan Tech, Boston, Air Force. There's a couple decent teams that are going to be playing, so, hey, there you go. All right. Closing the book on that. Go away. Let's talk some Arizona State Sun Devils here on this fine Monday afternoon for you guys. The Desert Hockey Classic didn't exactly go the way they would have liked. They get beat in the first round by Michigan Tech, who actually ends up winning it all, by the way. That one's a final score of 4-2, but Robert Mastro Simone, a couple of big goals for ASU, trying to keep them in it. The final goal was an empty net goal, so at one point, with about 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining, it's a 1-goal game, 3-2. At the very least, they did shut out Air Force. TJ Septemfelter is now tied in the NCAA D1 for the most shutouts. That was a much-needed win. They finished 3rd overall in the Desert Hockey Classic, and at the very least, they get one of those 2 wins. Then last weekend on the 13th and 14th in the Mullet, they hosted number 17th ranked Minnesota State, or Boston University was 6th, Michigan Tech was 16th or 12th. These ranked matchups are kind of killer. However, first goal of the game, Christopher Grando, his 2nd goal of the season with about 9 seconds to go in the first
first period shorthanded. The assists go to Benji Eckerly and Jack Judson. 3 unanswered goals in the second and third period. TJ only gives up 2 of those goals, however, one of those was an empty net goal. TJ Septenfelter, 32 saves, 2 goals against. Obviously, that was one of those games where ASU was in it, and really, they needed to find a way to get that win. I don't care if you split that series, that's a game where you were in it the entire time. You just had to find a way to get some of that scoring. Then you had Saturday night, the 14th, where on Friday, they actually had like 4,900 people there. Right here, 5,100 people, literally getting more people than the Coyotes. There's a specific reason for that, but seriously, ASU is drawing some pretty good crowds, and they got shut out 5-0. TJ makes 21 saves, 5 goals against. There really isn't anything to talk about here because they just got blown out. At the very least, they did get a couple of players back, Matthew Kopperud and Demetrius Koumountzis. This team is not as injured as they used to be, but these are 2 really tough losses, and considering the fact they needed to get like 10 wins in a row to make the tournament hopes for ASU this season might just be dashed. That being said, this weekend they are hosting RIT at the Mullet, and at the very least, these are 2 games, in my opinion, they absolutely must win. And looking forward at the next, couple of series against RIT, St. Thomas, Alaska Fairbanks, Linwood, they can only afford to lose maybe 1 more of these games if they really want to make the tournament. So we're definitely going to have to wait and see, but regardless, forks up, let's go Devils, let's get it done. Let's go! Robert Mastro Simone! What a finish! What an overtime goal! We'll get into it, but wow! What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here. Let's go ahead and talk about those last couple of ASU games against St. Thomas at the Mullet Arena. We'll start on the 27th, where ASU, they get off to a bit of a rocky start, in my opinion. On their first power play of the game, I want to say it was a minute into the first period, they allowed a breakaway chance that TJ saved. Another rush that, if it wouldn't have been for a really good defensive play by, I think it was Murchison, that would have led to another high-danger chance on their own power play. Then a St. Thomas player gets 5 in a game, and after 7 minutes of power play time within the first 10 minutes of the game, ASU had nothing to show for it and took a high-sticking penalty. That was killed off, but at the same time, that has got to be demoralizing. Going into these couple of games against St. Thomas, who is also a struggling team, ASU is 11-16-0, and they desperately needed both of these wins in order to keep their season at least salvageable, though they're not going to the tournament. We'll just go ahead and skip ahead to the second period because that's when all the magic starts to happen. At 18:08, Ty Jackson, his 3rd goal of the season from Dylan Jackson, so yes, once again, the Jackson brothers connect. Jacob Shemek getting the other assist. It's 1-0 ASU going into the 3rd period, where 46 seconds in, Demetrius Koumountzis scores his 6th goal of the season, that one coming from Ty Murchison and Ryan Alexander. 2-0 ASU. 6 minutes, 42 seconds into the 3rd period, on the power play, Jack Jensen gets his 2nd goal of the season, the assist going to Demetrius Koumountzis and Robert Mastro Simone. Yes, that was fun to write down. And finally, with exactly 7 minutes to go in the 3rd period, Dylan Jackson's 5th goal of the season from Lucas Sillinger and Ty Jackson, 4-0 finish. TJ Septenfelter gets, I think it's his 3rd or 4th shutout of the season. The Jackson brothers connect for 2 of ASU's goals, including the game winner. And at the very least, they win the first game. They're kind of stopping the bleeding. They're now 12-16-0, but can they finish the sweep on the next night, the 28th? Ben Cross gets the start. 4.5 minutes in, St. Thomas is on the board, and it's not exactly looking good. However, 5 minutes after that, Ryan Alexander scores his 8th goal of the season from Josh Doan. We're all tied, and you're going to see a lot of that going back and forth. But about a minute and a half later, St. Thomas is right back on the board. It's 2-1. Going into the second period, roughly halfway through, we get a penalty shot that Josh Doan gets to take. That will be his 7th goal of the season. We're once again tied. Josh Doan has 2 points on the night. ASU trying to stay in this, but St. Thomas would get the lead once more in the second period at 18:35. It is 3-2 going into the 3rd period. However, who else but one of the spark plugs on the team, Benji Eckerly, to score to tie this game with about 5 minutes to go in the 3rd period. That's his 2nd from Grando and Shemek. We're going to overtime. We're in the best plays I've seen in college hockey. Robert Mastro Simone goes 200 feet from one side of the ice to the other, dekes this poor kid out, and scores the game-winning goal. I think that's his 3rd game winner of the season. 9th total goal of the season. The assist going to Josh Doan and Demetrius Koumountzis. And ASU finishes the comeback. They complete the sweep. They go up to 13-16-0 with a couple of big games coming up against Alaska Fairbanks. Also, a huge
huge congratulations to ASU hockey coach Greg Powers, who on the 27th in that shutout victory against St. Thomas recorded his 100th career NCAA victory as a head coach. And it was funny because in that second game, I think they were down 2-1 at the time in the first period. At the Mullet Arena, they were congratulating him, had it on the Jumbotron and everything. He did not look happy. He didn't care about victory 100. He wanted victory 101, and they completed the comeback and got it that day. Love this coach, seriously. He is a great coach. Good on you. And back to the video. I have no idea where I'm interrupting. I'm recording it after. As for the goaltending, I feel bad for Ben Cross. TJ came in, outplayed him. He is just the better goaltender. It is what it is. But Ben finally gets an opportunity for a start. It's his first start of the season, third appearance of the season. He faced 22 shots, gave up 3 goals, and heading into the third period, they sent out TJ Septemfelter, who stopped all 11 of his shots, and he gets the win. 13-16-0 record for him. But like I said, it really sucks for Ben. I hope the kid succeeds wherever he goes after ASU. I mean, hopefully if he does want to play hockey, he at least gets a shot at the ECHL, but that's got to be rough. Enough of the bad news. I don't like talking about bad news. ASU wins back-to-back games. This weekend on the 3rd and 4th, they are in Alaska to take on Alaska Fairbanks in a series of games that if they manage another sweep, they're 1 game below 500, and honestly, the only goal at this point with 10 games left, finish with 20 wins, finish above 500, have that respectable record, keep building this program, so that way in the offseason you can get higher quality transfers. TJ Septemfelter, Ty and Dylan Jackson, and Robert Mastro Simone were all transfers to ASU in the offseason, and while Mastro's a senior, he's not going to be back next year, at the very least it's showing you're able to get some higher quality players from some of those better colleges, so at the very least keep building, and next year should be a lot better. But there's 10 games left, finish off the season strong, and remember, fork 'em! What is up, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and I am literally a week late, so let's not waste any time, and let's talk about those last couple of games last weekend in the Mullet, where ASU took on the Lindenwood Lions in what is apparently their first year in the NCAA. That would explain the 7-17-0 record. The Sun Devils headed into this game just being swept by Alaska Fairbanks, I want to say 2 weekends ago, in Alaska, so you know what? Let's take it out on the team from Missouri, as we all wish we could do. To start us off, 4:38 of the first period, Lucas Sillinger, his 8th goal of the season from the Jackson brothers. ASU's on the board first, 1-0. The first of many. Next up, 10 minutes later, Ryan O'Reilly, no not that one, scores his 6th goal of the season, 2-0 ASU. Then with 2 minutes to go in the first period, Dylan Jackson gets his 6th goal of the season from Lucas Sillinger and Ty Jackson. It is 3-0 going into the second period. All of that scoring, where has that been? I know it was there against St. Thomas, but I'm just saying. Just under 2 minutes into the second period, Robert Mastro Simone, his 10th goal of the season from Josh Doan, 4-0 ASU. Then exactly 2 minutes into the second period, Lucas Sillinger, his 2nd goal of the night, 9th of the season, that one coming from the Jackson brothers once again, 5-0 ASU. Okay, then exactly 10 minutes later, Lindenwood gets on the board, so it's 5-1. You stop the bleeding, good for you. That's not good enough. Because a minute and a half later, on the power play, Ryan Alexander, his 9th goal of the season from Robert Mastro Simone, and Tim Lavelle, who was just returning for this series, by the way. Welcome back, Tim. 5 minutes later, Ty Murchison, his 2nd goal of the season from Ryan O'Reilly. It is 7-1 ASU headed into the final frame. Lindenwood scores at 8:07 of the third period, but then literally 30 seconds later, 41 to be exact, Dylan Jackson, 2nd of the night, 7th of the season from his brother Ty Jackson and Ethan Schmaggy. Your final score is 8-2, and let's just say the Sun Devils were taking out just a little bit of aggression on the brand new program. TJ, 27 saves, 2 goals against, 14th win on the season, and it's kind of hard to pick the best player of this game. I mean, Dylan Jackson, 2 goals, 2 assists, Lucas Sillinger, 2 goals and an assist. Ty Jackson had 4 assists, and then TJ Septemfelter. So, let's go with Lucas Sillinger. The next night, how would Lindenwood respond to being absolutely destroyed in the Mullet? Well, they'd score first, and they'd take the lead 3 times. Spoiler alert. 8 minutes and 3 seconds into the first period, Lindenwood is on the board. They're up 1-0, and you're like, come on, ASU, you gotta get right back into it. 28 seconds later, on the power play, his 9th goal of the season, Josh Doan from Tim Lavelle and Robert Mastro Simone. We are tied. We go into the second period. Lindenwood scores 7 minutes and 6 seconds in. It's a 2-1 lead for the Lions. Then about 2 minutes later, Ty Jackson, his 4th goal of the season from Demetrius Kumantzis. and Ethan Schmaggy, 2-all. Then on the power play, about 3 minutes later, Lindenwood gets the lead right back, and that would be their last goal of the night. 3 minutes after that, Ryan O'Reilly, no, not that one, scores his 7th goal of the season, tying the game right back up. The assist going to Teddy Lagerback. Skip ahead to the third period, and 3 minutes and 44 seconds in, Chris Grando, his 4th goal of the season, the assist going to Robert Mastrosimone and Ty Murchison. Then finally, with about 24 seconds to go in the game, Josh Doan, empty net goal, his 10th of the season, 2nd of the night, and the Arizona State Sun Devils complete the sweep against the Lindenwood Lions, and they improve their record to 15-18-0. There are 6 games left in the season. If ASU can manage to win 5 of those 6, they will finish with a 20-win season. That's a big step forward, and that would put them above 500. The next matchup is tonight and tomorrow at home in the Mullet Arena against Alaska Fairbanks, and right now, this is the second to last series of the year. I'm not ready for the season to end yet, but you know what? It has to eventually, and though they're not going to make the tournament this year, go Devils. This is a good story. This is a really good story for an NCAA team that, quite frankly, could use a couple of good stories this season. So a couple of weeks back, the Arizona State Sun Devils lost back-to-back games at home against Alaska Fairbanks. Back-to-back games, mind you, in which they could not ice a full roster. Luckily, guys like Robert Mastrosimone that missed the second game ended up coming back immediately, so it was just a very brief injury. But for context, the Arizona State Sun Devils have lost more man games this season due to injury than what was it, the last 4 combined? It has been ridiculous. 2018-2019 Arizona Coyotes ridiculous. So on February 25th, after the second of those 2 losses, Matt Venezia posted this on Twitter. Greg Powers seems to be very frustrated with the injuries. Says he's looking into calling up skaters from the ASU club team to fill bodies ahead of Alaska Anchorage next weekend. Walked out with this: you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. This video is already going to get claimed because of music later on. So about an hour later, I saw that and quote tweeted Studioso call up. I want this on record. I said it on Twitter. I'll also say it here again. I had no insider sources. I've been keeping notes for the NCAA team, yes, but also the D1 men's and women's club team this year. And the name that pops up the most is Brendan Studioso. And the numbers back that up. Studioso has 28 goals and 20 assists for 48 points in 33 games, and the next closest player is Clayton Lackey, who has 13 goals and 27 assists for 40 points in 34 games. The next closest player to 20 goals in that entire team is Connor Tillman with 18. Needless to say, it was an absolute no-brainer. If you're going to call somebody up, Brendan Studioso is the best player on the team. So once again, for legal reasons, I had no sources. Then about a week later, on March 2nd, the ASU club team's official Twitter account, which is ridiculously inactive, posts the following video with this little announcement. Call up, huge congrats to our very own Brendan Studioso on being called up to our NCAA squad. He will be making his debut this weekend against Alaska Anchorage and will be playing for them for the remainder of the season. It's a cool little video. It's a nice little nod for him, although unfortunately he's not going to be able to go back to the ACHA, I don't think, for the rest of the year. However, getting the opportunity as a senior to play a few games at the NCAA level, I don't think he's going to be mad at. So far, it's a pretty fun story. A kid in his last year in college playing on the club team gets the opportunity to get called up, play a few games at the NCAA level. That's going to be a pretty solid memory for him. It gets better. So against Alaska Anchorage on the power play in the third period with about 3 minutes to go, in a game that ASU was already leading by a score of 4-0, Robert Mastrosimone sets up Brendan Studioso for a one-time goal, and to make it 5-0, Studioso scores his first NCAA goal in his first NCAA game. And here was the reaction of his teammates. You love to see it. You straight up, you love to see it. Honestly, you love to watch footage like this of all the boys just being there for him, celebrating his achievements, and the fact that this kid who wasn't expecting anything like that, who apparently got a text while he was in class that he was going to get this call up, scoring in his first NCAA game, that's awesome. That's seriously awesome. Realistically, the kid's 23 years old, spent his entire college career playing for the club team, minus these last couple of games and probably this weekend as well, starting tonight. I would be surprised if playing professional hockey was one of his goals at this point. But having the opportunity to come play for the NCAA team, that's awesome. It's a great story for ASU, it's a great story for the club team, it's a good story for the NCAA team that could use a couple of good stories this year, and especially it's a good story for Brendan Studioso. So Brendan, congratulations. It's really nice to have you on the team, and here's to hoping you score another couple of goals this weekend. After losing back-to-back games at home against Alaska Fairbanks, ASU goes into Alaska Anchorage. They split the series, winning one game 5-0, losing the other one by a final score of 4-3. But at the very least, senior Brendan Studioso in his first NCAA game after that ACHA call-up scores his first goal. A little bit of good news, then ASU comes back home on the 10th and the 11th for the final 2 games of the season, and they did a couple of really cool things, including letting Ben Cross start both of these last games. So the Arizona State Sun Devils hosted the Long Island University Sharks in games that, quite frankly, were more competitive than the games earlier on in the season at the Mullet Arena between the Arizona Coyotes and San Jose Sharks. Had to shoot my shot somewhere. We'll start off with the matchup on the 10th. Like I said, Ben Cross gets the starts. He would actually start in both of these games at home to finish off the season. And the first goal of the game goes to Long Island. 3 minutes, 15 seconds in, ASU finds themselves down 1-0. Then at 6:46 and about 10 minutes later at 16:22, Dylan Jackson would score back-to-back goals, putting ASU up 2-1 going into the intermission. His 8th and 9th respectively, and the assists going to Shemek and Grando, and then just Grando on the second one. In the second period, Long Island would answer back, including a shorthanded goal, putting themselves up 3-2 going into the final frame, a period where the Arizona State Sun Devils would respond with 4 unanswered goals of their own. Lagerback his 5th from Eckerly and Shemek, it's 3-3. Mastro Simone his 11th from Josh Doan and Ty Jackson, it is 4-3. Josh Doan is 15th from Robert Mastro Simone and Ty Jackson. That's his 8th goal in the last 5 games. Doner finished the season strong. And then finally, an empty net goal, Dylan Jackson scoring the first ASU hat trick at the Mullet Arena. An Arizona Coyote already scored a hat trick at the Mullet earlier on in the season. I forget who it was, I'll just say Clayton Keller. ASU wins the first game by a final score of 6-3. Ben Cross gets the win, 14 saves, 3 goals against, 2 0-0 record on the season to that point. And let's head into the matchup on the 11th to end the season on senior night. Senior night sucked, not because the on-ice product was bad or anything, the exact opposite. It just kind of sucks to see a lot of these kids that I've been rooting for all year that are now going to not be with the team anymore, including Chris Grando, who, side note, signed with Jacksonville of the ECHL yesterday. I'll do a video at some point of all the Devils that signed in the offseason, but I kind of wanted to have more than just one guy to talk about. But Grando is the first domino to fall, and I would expect guys like Kumuntzis and Mastro Simone to also get some interest. Anyway, back to the game at hand, 16 minutes into the first period. Ty Jackson, his 5th goal of the season from Dylan Jackson. It is 1-0 Arizona State. Long Island ties it in the second period. Nothing happens in the third. Then we go into overtime at the Mullet Arena in the first year ASU's playing there. And 57 seconds into overtime, who else would score the game winner than Captain Joshua Doan from Robert Mastro Simone and Scottsdale kid Demetrius Kumuntzis. Josh Doan, who started off the scoring for the Sun Devils way back in October against Colgate, scoring his 2nd goal of the season at the time, would also score his 16th to end the season at the Mullet. Couldn't have wrote that better. That's a storybook ending. Ben Cross, a massive 33 saves, 1 goal against, 3 0-0 record for him on the season, and your Arizona State Sun Devils, despite the fact they will not finish 500, 18-21-0, and they will not be making the NCAA tournament, they finish the season strong, winning back-to-back games at home in the Mullet, setting themselves up for a crucial offseason and a potential 20-win season next year. Good year, boys. Been an absolute pleasure taking notes, making some stupid YouTube videos, and one last time before the end of the season, it's hockey time at the Mullet. Alright, I am very much behind in trying to cover this, but that was then, this is now. Let's talk about the ASU D1 women's club team and how they're champions and going to the championship. Let me explain. So about a month ago, mid-February, the ASU D1 women's club team went to Boulder, Colorado to play in a tournament in which they went 3-0 and won a championship. Started off on the 17th against Colorado State University in a game the ASU women won 4-0. A game where Mason Walker scored her 20th goal of the season and had 2 points, a goal and an assist. Goaltending-wise, Hellman had her easiest shutout of the season, only having to face 11 shots. Then the next day on the 18th, they would take on GCU, and they'd win this one by a final score of 3-1, scoring the first 3 goals of the game. Paulson scoring 2 goals, her 12th and 13th on the season, and Satura scoring her 3rd. Sam Murphy also had a couple of assists, and Florence Odd had an assist. That's a name you'll want to remember for later. The next day on the 19th, in the finale, it would be a rematch between ASU and GCU. In this game, the Sun Devils would absolutely run away with it. In the finals against GCU, the scoring started off at 4:28 of the first period on the power play, where Sam Murphy would score her 5th goal of the season with the assist going to Haley Martin. In the second period, GCU would tie it back up, but then the third period was all ASU, with goals from Florence Odd, a second one from Sam Murphy, Sydney Paulson, and Logan Satura, and the final score is 5-1, and with that, the ASU women win the WWCHL championship. Women's Western Collegiate Hockey League, so essentially it takes teams from these 3 different states, those being Colorado, Arizona, and Utah, and has them all play in a tournament, so it's essentially like a division championship. It consists of teams like University of Utah, Arizona State, Colorado State, and that game wasn't all on the forwards. I mean, 5 goals is going to get it done regardless, but Carson Hellman had 31 saves on 32 shots, so also give her the proper credit. But yeah, there you go. The D1 women's club team is the WWCHL champions for this season. Then they had to start a fundraiser in order to travel to the ACHA championships, in which they actually just completed it. They were about $400 above the goal. It looks like the tournament is taking place in Boston, so it kind of makes sense they had to fundraise to get all the way over there. I didn't actually know this. Apparently, club hockey is all player financed. The first game takes place in a few days on the 16th, so best of luck to the Sun Devils, but there is one more piece of news to cover. Defenseman Florence Odd was named second team All-Athletic in the ACHA this season, so big congratulations to her. She had 2 goals and 10 assists for 12 points in 24 games, and she was a key factor in helping them secure the WWCHL championship. They are ranked number 7 overall. They'll be taking on number 8 Maryville University, so best of luck, and forks up. Forks up, boys, with the 2022-23 Arizona State University hockey season right around the corner. By that I mean within the next week or so. I'm gonna finally get around to talking about the players that made it to ASU via the transfer portal. This news, May 3rd, 2022. I am approximately 4 months late on this, but that was then, this is now. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So without further ado, let's talk about the 5 players that joined the Arizona State Sun Devils hockey team. Note, I did want to add a little bit of pizzazz and look at a couple quotes for each player. However, there are only quotes available on Elite Prospects for 2 of them, one of them being Robert Mastromoni, a player that I covered by himself because, well, I saw that announcement via Twitter and didn't even know the other 4 added on until I checked the ASU website. So without further ado, go ahead and start off with Robert Mastromoni. 21-year-old, 5'10", 170 pounds center/wing. He transferred over after 3 years at Boston University. And in 83 games played at the college level, he has 21 goals, 29 assists, and 50 points. In 2018-2019, he was an alternate captain with the Chicago Steel, though he would not be teammates with Joshua Doan just yet. He'll actually finally get to play with Josh Doan this season. In 2019, Mastromoni was drafted 54th overall by the Detroit Red Wings, and here's a couple of quotes about him. He is the type of player that has a non-stop motor and plays a fearless brand of hockey. That one came from McKean's. Robert has a quick, accurate release on his shot, and he is an expert at using toe drags to get around defenders. That one's from Future Consideration. All in all, Mastromoni is a really solid player, should probably fit around at least somewhere in the top 9, so there you go. Next up, we have 21-year-old winger Lucas Sillinger, the son of former Coyotes legend Mike Sillinger. 5'11", 161 pounds, plays on both the right wing and at the center position. And in 65 games, he has 23 goals, 30 assists for 53 points. And also for the 2022 rookie camps, he played with the LA Kings. Not sure how I feel about that one, but you gotta get your professional experience wherever you can get it. Next up, we got a couple of brothers both transferring to Arizona State University. 20-year-old center Ty Jackson and his brother 20-year-old winger Dylan Jackson. In 29 games, Dylan has 5 goals and 12 assists, and in 49 games, Ty has 13 goals and 19 assists. Fun little fact, their father is Paul Jackson, who played for both the Utah Grizzlies and Las Vegas back in the day, as a minor league team played for. They had a funny name too, it was like the Las Vegas Iguanas. And finally, 20-year-old goaltender TJ Septemfelter. How did I get that in one take? He played in 30 games for Northeastern last year, posting a 204 goals against and a 934 save percentage. The kid is a stud. His game is characterized by structured movement and crisp edge work, and he doesn't seem to lose track of the play very often. With that being said, Ben Cross has some competition in net, doesn't he? So there you go, those are the 5 players that are joining the ASU Sun Devils. I'm excited for the upcoming season. And a little side note, I'm going to try to make my way over there. On the 30th, just in a couple of days, ASU women's hockey team has their first game of the season in Oceanside, so hope to see you there. Go Devils! Forks up, boys! We have an NCAA hockey season to talk about. So the 2022-23 season for the Arizona State Sun Devils has wrapped up. It wrapped up about a week and a half ago, and I want to try something different. I want to actually try to review the season, and let's kind of go through what happened throughout. To start off, they got 5 big players from the transfer portal. First and foremost, Robert Mastro-Simone from Boston University had a phenomenal season with Arizona State, and the fact that they were able to get him out of Boston to come to Arizona, that was a phenomenal pickup. He had a great season, and it was honestly a lot of fun to watch him playing with Josh Doan. They got Lucas Sillinger from Bemidji State, yes, son of former Coyote Mike Sillinger, and brother to Cole Sillinger. And then from Northeastern, they grabbed 3 players. Forwards Ty and Dylan Jackson, who played pretty well together, and also Dylan Jackson, keep him in the back of your mind. We're going to talk about him a little more later. And their starting goaltender, TJ Septemfelter. So apparently what happened was TJ was playing behind one of the best goalies in the NCAA, ends up transferring over to ASU, stealing that starting job, and in my opinion, really putting himself on the map, and I would not be surprised if he gets drafted in 2023 or 2024. Those were the 5 guys they got in the transfer portal, and to be completely honest here, every single one of them ended up being a key contributor. The season would start off on October 1st and 2nd at Minnesota Duluth. ASU got on the board first, Jack Judson from Jack Jensen and Ryan O'Reilly. They would lose that game by a final score of 3-2 in overtime, however. Though Lucas Sillinger would score later on to give him a 2-1 lead, and that goal came from Robert Mastro-Simone. The next game, Demetrius Koumountzis got on the board first before Arizona State gave up 4 unanswered goals and lost that one by a final score of 4-1. Then in the 7th and 8th, they were at Bemidji State in the first game. They won that one 3-0. It was their first win of the season. The goals going to Komperud, Niedermeyer, and Ty Murchison. Oh, and TJ, 40-save shutout that night. They would drop the next game by a final score of 5-4. However, Josh Doan would score his first goal of the season, Mastro-Simone would score a couple of goals, and Matthew Komperud also got on the board. Then they head into the Mullet Arena to take on Colgate and Colorado College in back-to-back weekends, and they split both those series. The home opener on the 14th, Josh Doan scores his second goal of the season, first in Mullet Arena history for the Arizona State Sun Devils men's team. The reason I'm being particular about that is because on the 12th, Mason Walker of the women's club team scored the first ever goal at the Mullet Arena. So the home opener at the Mullet, they win 2-0 against Colgate, giving TJ Septemfelter his second shutout of the season. Then ASU is shut out the next night, losing 4-0. Then Arizona State would win their next 4 consecutive home games, beating Colorado College 5-3 and 6-1 on the 21st and 22nd, and then hosting Alaska Anchorage on the 11th and the 12th. We gotta talk about the U.S. Hall of Fame game. That was on October 29th. I actually wasn't sure if it was a game that counted in the standings, but it does. They headed over to Vegas to play inside a T-Mobile Arena, and they took on number 6 at the time, North Dakota. They were down 2-0 until late in the first period, where Matthew Komperud gets them on the board, 3rd goal of the season from Jack Judson. That one coming on the power play. Then to tie it up, Lucas Sillinger, his second from Komperud and Mastro-Simone, and then 24 seconds into the 3rd period, what would be the game-winning goal? Robert Mastro-Simone, his 5th goal of the season, and that would be your game winner, and Arizona State University wins a massive game that actually helped get them some momentum early on in the season. They would win those games by a final score of 5-2 and 3-0. Yes, TJ Septemfelter that early in the season had 3 shutouts. TJ is a brick wall and a phenomenal goaltender. The next weekend on the 18th and 19th, they would go into Clarkson and lose back-to-back games. Then they would come home with a 7-6-0 record to take on number 2 ranked Minnesota. The same Minnesota team that has both Coyotes prospect Logan Cooley, an Arizona-born prospect and former teammate of Joshua Doan growing up, Matthew Nyes. That first game on the 25th, they would drop by a final score of 3-2, but ASU, while being down, they were not out. On the 26th, in a game that was back and forth all night, 3 minutes and 10 seconds into the overtime period, Robert Mastro-Simone would score his 6th goal of the season at the time from Josh Doan and give the Arizona State Sun Devils their biggest win in program history, beating the number 2 ranked team in the nation. 10 different players recorded points in that game, by the way, including Ryan Alexander, who had himself 2 goals in that game. On December 2nd and 3rd, they would head into Denver to take on the number 1 ranked team in the nation, and they lost both those games. 3-2, which is a pretty solid effort, and 5-2 respectively. So at this point in the season, they are 8-9-0, they are below 500, and they're heading into New Hampshire for a couple of games. And New Hampshire was a team that was struggling. They were 3-13-1 heading into the first matchup, and I want to say they had not won a game since October. They win the first game on the 9th, 4-1, putting their record back at 500, but then the next night losing by a final score of 5-4 in overtime. Once again, falling below 500. It was right around this point of the season where it was kind of looking like Arizona State was not going to make the NCAA tournament. Of course, there was still time, but the amount of losses were starting to pile up, and you can't make it into the tournament with a 500 record. To close out the year, on the 30th and 31st, Arizona State would host Boston College, and they would actually manage to get one of those wins. The first game, they would lose by a final score of 5-2, but we're going to go ahead and forget that game, because the next night, with goals by Josh Doan and Ethan Schmaggy, who got the game-winning goal, they would win by a final score of of 2-1. TJ Septenfelter, 41 saves, a damn good night for him, and a really good win for the program. Then you would have the Desert Hockey Classic, where on the 6th, Arizona State University, they would take on number 6 ranked Michigan Tech, and they lost by a final score of 4-2. The next day, they would take on Air Force for 3rd place overall in the tournament, and they'd win by a final score of 2-0, giving TJ Septenfelter his 4th shutout of the season. Unfortunately, between January 13th and January 21st, Arizona State University would host Minnesota State as well as RIT and lose all 4 of those games in a row. At that point, Arizona State is 11-16-0, and those tournament hopes are kind of done. At the very least, on the 27th and 28th of January, they did bounce back against St. Thomas, shutting them out the first night 4-0. Septenfelter, what's that, his 5th shutout of the season? And beating them 4-3 on the 28th in overtime, where, you guessed it, Robert Mastrosimone would score the game winner. His 9th of the season from Josh Doan and Demetrius Koumountzis. Unfortunately, that momentum just wouldn't carry on to the road. On February 3rd and 4th, Arizona State would head into Alaska to take on Alaska Fairbanks, and they would lose both those games by a final score of 2-1 and 5-2. With their tournament hopes done, Arizona State would return home on February 17th and 18th to take on Lindelwood, in which they would tame the Lions. They won the first game by a final score of 8-2. Dylan Jackson had 2 goals and 2 assists. Lucas Sillinger had 2 goals and an assist. It was a crazy night for Arizona State University. The next night, on the 18th, they would also win by a final score of 5-3 with help from 2 goals by Josh Doan. He scored his 10th of the season that night, by the way. At that point in the season, Arizona State is 14-18-0, and the hope is to still win 20 games, to still finish above 500. On the 24th and 25th, they would host Alaska Fairbanks, and they would drop both of those games. Both of those games were a final score of 4-2, and at this point in the season, the injuries just killed them. For this series, as well as the last series of the season, Arizona State would be unable to ice a full roster. It was actually after those back-to-back home losses heading into Alaska that Arizona State called up Brendan Studioso from the club team to help finish the season. On March 3rd and 4th, they would go back into Alaska to take on Alaska Anchorage. In that first game, they won 5-0. It was just blatantly frustration building up and absolutely destroying the team in front of you. Josh Doan had a goal and 3 assists. Robert Mastrosimone had a goal and 3 assists, but that really wasn't the main story out of it. Because on the power play with about 3 minutes to go, Brendan Studioso would score his first NCAA goal in his first NCAA game. Great story all around, and at the end of the season where, quite frankly, Arizona State needed some good stories, they got him. Unfortunately, the next night, they would play a sloppy game and lose by a final score of 4-3, and they would head home on the 10th and the 11th to take on the Long Island Sharks with a record of 16-21-0, with the possibility of finishing 500 and having a 20-win season being completely dashed. On the 10th, this team just wouldn't give up. Dylan Jackson gets a couple of goals to get him back in the game. In the third period, Lagerback, Mastrosimone, and Doan all score to give Arizona State a 5-3 lead late in the game, and then Dylan Jackson with an empty net would score his 3rd goal of the night and the first hat trick for Arizona State University at the Mullet Arena. I think Clayton Keller did it earlier on in the year, but we're not talking about the Coyotes, we're talking about Arizona State. Ben Cross got to start that game, by the way. Ben Cross, the former starter last year, got to actually get a couple of games later on in the season. That was his 2nd win in his 3rd game played. The first game there was no decision. I think it was the 2nd game against Denver he came in relief for TJ Septenfelter. And then finally on March 11th, on senior night, very sad day for me because honestly I love this team and I was having a lot of fun getting to watch these games and work the games. In their last game of the season, they would win by a final score of 2-1. Ty Jackson is 5th, getting on the board first. Then in the second period, Long Island would tie it. So we head into overtime where you couldn't really write the story any better. 57 seconds in, Josh Doan, his 16th goal of the season from Robert Mastrosimone, his teammate all season, and local boy Demetrius Koumountzis. Donor would score the first goal at the Mullet Arena as well as the last to end the season. A storybook ending you really couldn't draw up if you tried, and Ben Cross would get his 3rd win of the season with a 31 save effort. After the season was over, you did have a couple of Sun Devils turn pro. Defenseman Jacob Shemek signed with the Utah Grizzlies of the ECHL, where he is now playing with Johnny Walker. Chris Grando signed with the Jacksonville Icemen of the ECHL. I think Grando is playing with 2 former Sun Devils in Jacksonville. I know he's at least playing with Tim Theocrates, so there you go, even more Sun Devil connections. But I want to say he's also playing with Jack Becker. And Demetrius Koumountzis would sign with the Idaho Steelheads. And then, of course, Josh Doan would sign his ELC and begin his AHL career with the Tucson Roadrunners, where he is now playing with former ASU where he is now playing with former ASU captain Colin Thyssen. His first game was on March 17th, 2023. It was rough, but playing against grown men is going to help his game. Oh, and Shemek got his first point last night, I think. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at some stats this year. I'm just going to go ahead and read off the notebook. TJ Septenfelter, a 15-21-0 record, 284 goals against, 913 save percentage, and 5 shutouts on the season. Ben Cross, 3-0-0 record, 219, 926 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Of course, I have to mention Brendan Studioso, 3 games played, 1 goal, 1 point. Jackson Niedermeyer, 7 games played, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points, and he got injured very early on, ending his season. Jacob Shemek, 39 games, 9 assists for 9 points. Ryan O'Reilly, not that one, 36 games, 8 goals, 8 assists for 16 points. Ryan Alexander, 35 games, 11 goals, 6 assists, 17 points. Demetrius Koumountzis, 37 games played, 7 goals, 11 assists for 18 points. And finally, your top 5 scorers who all had 20 or more points. Dylan Jackson and Lucas Sillinger are both tied for 4th with 21 points. Sillinger, 33 games, 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points. And Jackson, 37 games, 12 goals, 9 assists, 21 points. His brother, Ty Jackson, 38 games, 6 goals, 17 assists, 23 points. And finally, your top 2 scorers, who in my opinion were the best players on the team not named TJ Septenfelter. Josh Doan, 39 games, 16 goals, 22 assists for 38 points. And the only player who was a point per game, who was actually above a point per game, Robert Mastrosimone, the newcomer, the senior who very likely will not be back next season. 38 games, 11 goals, 31 assists for 42 points. Donor led the team in goals, but Mastro led the team in assists and points. And unfortunately, that closes the book on the 2022-23 season for the Arizona State Sun Devils. Next year, the team is going to look a lot different. They just lost their captain, Josh Doan. On top of that, Robert Mastrosimone, while he's yet to make a final decision, very likely is not coming back. Koumountzis, Grando, and Shemek all signed elsewhere. They're no longer eligible to play. And there are a lot of kids that have already committed to come in for next year, so it's going to be a very young team. And I'm going to be interested to see how active they are in the transfer portal because there's going to be open roster spaces. That being said, this team for this year, the first year at the Mullet Arena, it was a blast. This team was a pleasure to watch. It was so fun to watch guys like Josh Doan and Robert Mastrosimone. They lit up the league pretty much. They led the team on and off the ice. You had guys like Ty and Dylan Jackson playing together with a lot of really good chemistry. You had a lot of important bottom sixers like Chris Grando, Ryan O'Reilly, Ethan Schmaggy, all playing their roles, and you had some really good defensive performances. The team was hampered so much with injuries that they resembled the 18-19 Coyotes, and I want to say the stat was they lost more man games this year than the last 4 seasons combined. Of course, you had the brick wall that was TJ Septenfelter, and it was really fun to see Ben Cross get a couple of games at the end of the year, and TJ is such a stand-up guy that he was happy for Ben getting those games and didn't selfishly want to help make his numbers look a little bit better. I love this team. It was an absolute privilege and honor getting to cover them throughout the year, and I cannot wait for a couple more things to happen so I can make some more ASU videos in the off-season, and I will see you guys next year.
Sun Devil fans, get on your feet and make some noise! It's hockey time and
How's it going? AZ Sports Guy here. I kept putting this video on the back burner, and then training camp's been going on for a while. I'm pretty sure the season starts in a week and a half. I'm just going to do it now, right? Here are all the former Arizona State University hockey players that signed contracts in the offseason. Obviously, I already did an entire video talking about Josh Doan, but Josh Doan did sign a remaining of the season contract with Tucson last year, as well as his NHL ELC with the Coyotes starting this season, so we have 3 more years of Doan in Arizona. He is looking phenomenal this training camp and preseason, and while I still think he'll start off in Tucson, he's a lot more NHL ready than even I thought he was going to be at this point, and I've been high on him for a couple of years now. With that out of the way, here are all the players in chronological order. On July 5th, 2023, the Calgary Wranglers of the AHL signed a few players, including Calgary native and former Arizona State Sun Devil defenseman Jared Gorley. He signed a 2-year contract, so congratulations, Jared. You've done pretty good in my NHL 23 game, so hopefully that translates to the real NHL. AHL. You know what I mean. The very next day, on July 6, 2023, defenseman Jacob Shemek signed a 1-year contract to return to the Utah Grizzlies of the ECHL, playing with ASU alum like Johnny Walker. Shemek recorded 3 assists in 13 games for the Utah Grizzlies last season after the end of the ASU season, so at the very least, it does look like he left an impression on the team. I don't exactly have an ECHL team anymore because the Roadrunners left in like 2009, so go Grizz. Next up, on July 11, 2023, the Rockford Ice Hogs signed defenseman John Maniscalco. He played for ASU for 2 seasons between 2018 and 2020, and after a handful of years in the Pittsburgh Penguins system, he found himself playing mostly for the ECHL's Wheeling Nailers last season. He was an alternate captain there, playing in 31 games. The reason I mention that is because I want to draw a connection between that and a Pittsburgh native, Demetrius Koumountzis. Though it is worth noting he does personally say his hometown is Scottsdale, but he was technically born in Pittsburgh. He is an honorary Arizona native, alright? He did play for the Phoenix Junior Coyotes and ASU for all 5 seasons. After last season, he also played in 10 games for the Iowa Steelheads, the ECHL, recording 5 points, and his rights were officially relinquished by the Calgary Flames. He is now free to sign wherever he wants. Hopefully, that means Tucson. But if he doesn't, his major is in what? Communications? There's some good money in there. Next up, the one that breaks my heart. On August 20th, 2023, Robert Mastrosimone signed a 1-year contract with the Toronto Marlies. Mastrosimone led the Sun Devils last year in scoring with 11 goals and 31 assists for 42 points in just 38 games. He was also one of my 3 favorite players in the team last year, so TJ, you're all I got left. Mastro's a solid forward with a really good pass and a good drive for the game. Seriously, Toronto, you got a really good player here. I just kinda hate it because I hate Toronto. But seriously, best of luck in Toronto. And finally, as of September 18th, 2023, so not that long ago at all, Tucson Roadrunners re-signed former ASU captain Colin Tyson to a 1-year contract. Side note, Roadrunners Twitter, make sure you actually have the news up to date and have it in people's faces, because I didn't know about this. I was bored of looking at Tucson news one day. Anyway, Tyson has played back-to-back partial seasons with the Tucson Roadrunners, starting in 2021-22 after his college stint was done, where he recorded 5 goals and 6 assists in 16 games. Then last year he didn't exactly make the roster out of camp. He did spend some time with the AHL affiliate, the Atlanta Gladiators, but he did play a good amount of the season with the Roadrunners, tallying 7 goals and 8 assists in 31 games. With Michael Carcone off the roster, it's going to leave a lot of open space for guys like Tyson and Donor to try to snag a bigger role in the team's offense. So, Colin, best of luck to you. And remember, if they feature you on the U of A or ASU thing they do in intermissions, forks up, baby. Before I end things, I would not have had all this information had it not been for Sun Devil Hockey News on Twitter. They're a phenomenal Twitter account that does their best to keep up with former ASU players, signings, and whatnot. I would have never thought to look at a team in Wales, see whether or not former ASU players signed there. But they do a good job, and they're the entire reason I was able to make this video. So please, go give them a follow, like, tell them AZ sent you. They're not going to know who I am, but it is what it is. That account deserves a lot more than 100 followers. Seriously, they do really good work over there. And that's all I got for you. Those are all the ASU alum that managed to sign contracts, and Demetrius Koumountzis, because of course I have to rep the AZ hometown kids, and I got to make sure to highlight them a little bit. So there you go. Best of luck in the upcoming season, and hopefully at least a couple of you will end up making the NHL this year. So a few days ago, the ASU women's hockey team unveiled their captains for the 2023-24 season, so you know what? Let's get back into the swing of things, talking about some ASU hockey. We'll start off with the captains, Ellie McKenna and Jill Ketchum. Last year was McKenna's first season with the Sun Devils. She played in 22 games, scoring 11 goals and 3 assists for 14 points. She's a skilled forward, good shot, good to have her back. Moving on to Ketchum, she has technically been here for 3 seasons, and last year in 10 games she recorded 3 goals and 2 assists for 5 points. And next up, they have 3 alternates. Probably should have gone with the forks up. Next up, we have 3 alternate captains, Berkeley Radcliffe, Sammy Lutch, and Mason Walker. Both Lutch and Radcliffe are defensemen, and Lutch last season, 24 games played, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. And Radcliffe, 24 games, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. And finally, Mason Walker, who was the leading scorer on the team last season in 24 games, scoring 20 goals and 9 assists for 29 points. Walker is one of only 3 players last season that had above a point per game. The other 2 being Sidney Paulson and Sam Murphy. Short video, I know, but I did want to highlight the captains for your 23-24 women's ASU team, and forks up, go Devils. I don't know, man, I'm getting too old for this. Over the last week or so, we've gotten a decent amount of news coming from the ASU women's team, so let's go ahead and put it all together in a video and share it with you. We'll start off with the latest commitment. Starting this year, fall 2023, defenseman Sophie Fossil, an Arizona Kachinas alumni, is officially committed to play for the ASU women's hockey team this year. She is from Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm always excited to have local players playing for my teams. Quote, I chose the ASU women's team because the team was very welcoming and the culture that Coach Ellis has created is something I want to be a part of. Can't wait to see what the season holds for us. There have been been a lot of new players coming into the ASU women's team this year, including these 4 that made the roster. Chase Beardsley broke this story, phenomenal follow on Twitter by the way, Chase Beardsley _. The team has released their final roster including 4 new recruits, goaltender Brooke Kimmel, forward Liv Lavelle, defenseman Jessica Weilet, and forward Evelyn Olsen. They also announced some jersey number changes like Sam Murphy going from 24 to 14 and Tristan Craig going from 23 to 17, but I don't really think that's all that important. What we do have is the leading scorer from last season has officially announced his retirement. As of August 16th, 2023, so just a couple of days ago, ASU forward Mason Walker has officially announced his retirement. He led the team last season with 20 goals and 29 total points. He was also named an assistant captain heading into this season, and it feels weird to me, because I assumed he was going to stick around longer. Then again, he is 24 years old, played 4 years of D3 NCAA hockey, and then last year with the ASU women's team. It sucks to lose ASU's leading scorer, but at the end of the day, it kind of is what it is, and some of these new recruits are going to have to step up. And as Chase pointed out, 3 of the top 4 scorers for last year's team are gone. Sydney Paulson is the only one that remains. So the 2023-24 ASU women's team is probably going to look and feel a lot different than last year's team, and last year's team won the WWCHL title. To celebrate the 2023-24 season about to kick off this Friday, technically, it's an exhibition game against the U of A club team, so it's going to be a shutout, or like a 5-1 blowout. I decided I was going to finally get caught up on some ASU-related content and give you a week straight of ASU uploads. We're going to start off late on a Monday because none of you are on time to class on Mondays, and all of you half-ass your homework. I know, I see you, I know. So we're going to start off with some news that isn't exactly hot off the presses, but does need to be discussed regardless. And that is the captains for your Arizona State Sun Devils for the 2023-24 season. And this was announced September 14th, so not quite a month late, so please give me partial credit. We'll start off with the alternate captains, those being Ryan O'Reilly, no, not that one, Matthew Copperwood, Ethan Schmaggy, and Lucas Sillinger. And because he plays for Arizona State University, he is the better of the 3 sons of former Coyote Mike Sillinger. This is Sillinger's 2nd season with the team, playing in 33 games last season, recording 21 points. This will be defenseman Ethan Schmaggy's 3rd season with the Arizona State Sun Devils. First as an alternate captain, however. Last year he played in 39 games and recorded 11 points. Ryan O'Reilly, no, not that one. This will be his 3rd year playing for the Arizona State Sun Devils. And in 36 games last season, he recorded 16 points. And finally, Matthew Copperwood. This will be his 4th year with the Arizona State Sun Devils. To my knowledge, the 1st year with an A on his chest. Copper can still play. Hopefully the injuries last year won't affect this season. But I know the moment you're all waiting for, right? Who is going to be the captain for ASU this year? That would be a recent transfer from Penn State and likely one-and-done captain. Greg Powers seems to have a lot of those. Forward Tyler Gratton. He is Chris Gratton's brother, but not the Chris Gratton that played for the Coyotes. And those are the captains for your Arizona State Sun Devils for the 2023-24 season. So, you know, forks up and whatever the kids say. It's day 2 of daily ASU uploads, and we are going to continue this series, this celebration for opening night, with all of the roster subtractions from last season. Let's get into it. We'll start off with the players that signed pro contracts after the conclusion of the 2022-23 season. Let's start with Chris Grando. Grando signed with the Jacksonville Icemen of the ECHL. For Jacksonville, he played in 15 games, recording 4 goals and 5 assists for 9 points. He also added 1 assist in 2 playoff games. As of right now, he is set to return to Jacksonville, but could find himself playing in the AHL. Next up is Jacob Shemek, who joined former ASU teammate Johnny Walker in Utah. As a member of the Grizzlies in 13 games, he recorded 3 assists and did sign a contract extension, so he will be back this upcoming season. And finally, Demetrius Kumansis, who went to Idaho to play for the Steelheads. I do believe he was playing with 2 additional ASU alum, Willie Neerum and Jack Becker? Yeah, Jack Becker. And in 10 games last year for Idaho, he recorded 5 assists. He will be back this season. Well, seemingly. I haven't seen a contract announcement yet, but he is listed here on Elite Prospects. And then, of course, Josh Doan signed his 3-year ELC with the Arizona Coyotes, as well as signing a 1-year contract with Tucson. So basically, the 1-year contract to Tucson was for the end of last season, and the 3-year ELC starts this season for the Coyotes. In 14 games, he recorded 3 goals and 3 assists for 6 points, as well as adding in an assist in 3 playoff games. And finally, Robert Mastro Simone in the offseason signed with the Toronto Marlies of the AHL, and as of a couple of days ago, has been officially sent
sent down, so he will play for the Marlies. But that's just players turning pro, which you do want to see. You want to see a bunch of ASU alumni going on to do something with their hockey careers. But what I want to talk about is the transfers, because by my count, Arizona State lost about 6 players due to transfers. Actually, it's 7. More on that later. To keep it in chronological order, first on March 15th, goaltender Ben Cross, who has been in Arizona State for quite a while, transferred to St. Lawrence University for his grad season. On March 20th, 2023, 3 players transferred out, including defenseman Blake Dongos. He is now at Sacred Heart University. Depth forward Cade Sybil transferred to Augsburg University to play D3 hockey. And defenseman Jack Judson transferred to Clarkson University. Just 2 more left. As of March 28th, 2023, freshman Teddy Lagerbeck, he transferred out to Miami University in Ohio. And finally, 2 days later on the 30th, forward Jack Jensen, he transferred out to Augustana University. That means both Jack Judson and Jack Jensen are gone, so no more confusing names for me. There was one more player I wanted to talk about, however, and that is forward Ryan Robinson. Last year for the NCAA squad, he played in just 1 game, recording 0 points, so yes, Studioso's better. I'm joking, but I had to work that reference in because he's transferred to stay within ASU. He is now playing D1 club hockey. And for the D1 club team in 3 games so far, he has 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points, so it is good to see him playing. That was just a really weird notification. That was really weird to see him transfer from NCAA back to D1 ACHA, but there you go. Those are all the roster subtractions, the main ones from last season, 2022-23, to this season, 2023-24. See you tomorrow for whatever I pull out of my arse. It's Wednesday, my dudes. I know, I'm old and irrelevant, but I'm here to talk about the 5 transfers Arizona State acquired over the offseason, and there is one very notable trend among all of them. They're all going to be here for about a year. So without further ado, let's go ahead and waste no time and jump right into it. We'll start on March 13th, 2023, where defenseman Brandon Tabakin transferred from Yale University. The 5'10", 160-pound, 23-year-old defenseman has 1 year of college eligibility left, and over the last 2 seasons at Yale, he recorded 3 and 6 points respectively. His goals, assists, and points all double from year to year, so this season, obviously, he'll record 4 goals, 8 assists, and 12 points. Easy math. He's probably just coming in here to be a defensive defenseman, adding some solid depth in the blue line. Good ad. On March 22nd, 2023, defenseman Cade Alami, he transferred from Boston College. He is the only player on this list that has more than 1 year of college eligibility remaining. This kid is 6'7", 216 pounds, and I've seen him at the arena. The only thing that came to mind was Adewale from Assassin's Creed 4. He's a monster! Seriously, this kid is huge. Over the last 2 years at Boston College, he recorded 1 and 3 points respectively, all being assists. But we all know what Cole's coming here to be. Big, solid, burly defenseman, and you know what? That's all you need, because seriously, the defense had a couple of holes last season. With a couple of additions they made in the transfer portal, as well as a couple of rookies coming in, the team should be a little better this year defensively. Next up, we get to the forwards, starting on March 27th, 2023. That is when 25-year-old forward Brian Chambers transferred from UMass Lowell. Lowell? Lavelle? I'm a community college dropout. I can't read. Chambers played at UMass from 2019 until 2023, with this being his last year of college eligibility. In 2021-22, Brian skated in 33 games, recording 3 goals and 8 assists for 11 points. Last season, he only skated in 28 games, but in those 28 games, he scored 8 goals and 11 assists for 19 points. Solid depth forward, and I'm pretty sure like 3 of these guys all played together in the past. Not at the college level, I think it was at the junior level, but I'm not going to fact check that because I am your favorite community college dropout. Anyway, on March 30th, 2023, the now captain of the team transferred over from Penn State, 24-year-old forward Tyler Gratton. Before this, he was at Penn State from 2019 until 2023. In 2021-22, Gratton played in 37 games, recording 9 goals and 3 assists for 12 points. Then last season, he played in 38 games, scoring 7 goals and 8 assists for 15 points. Couple less goals, a couple more assists. It is what it is. He's going to be right there in that middle 6. He's going to be the captain, leader on the squad. Watch him score like 12 goals this year. And finally, what has to be the biggest acquisition of the offseason, on March 25th, 2023, San Jose prospect Alex Young transferred from Colgate College, where he had been since 2020, for his final year of NCAA availability, though he is only 22. In 2020-2021, playing in 21 games, Young recorded 6 goals and 7 assists for 13 points. Then in 2021-22, playing in 39 games, he recorded 10 goals and 21 assists for 31 points. Really solid year for him. He would then top that last season playing in 40 games and recording 21 goals and 18 assists for 39 points. He was almost a point-per-game player, and adding this kid to the roster very much was needed additional scoring on the team because losing your top 2 scorers in Josh Doan and Robert Mastrosimone, ASU needed more. Yes, the Jackson brothers on the wing, it's a solid second line. You do have a couple of other players that can score. I mean, Copper's still on the team. But adding Young to the team has to be the biggest addition of the offseason. And a fun little side note I learned the other day, Alex actually worked with current brand new assistant coach for the Arizona State Sun Devils, Dana Borgs, in the past. He is one of the 2 NHL prospects Dana has worked with so far. Just in case I forget to talk about it later, Arizona State added a couple of assistant coaches this offseason, and they have been described to me as one of them is really good at getting diamond in the rough prospects, and the other is really good at getting those guys with 1 year left to transfer to your team. Seems like ASU's made some really good structural changes to essentially plan out the future because you're getting the kids to transfer now, the high quality prospects, as well as getting those diamond in the rough prospects that will make the program overall healthier in the long run. Seriously, it seems like ASU's doing a lot right this offseason. I'm just going to say it here. ASU is going to be a lot better this season than a lot of people think they're going to. Obviously, you lose Mastro, you lose Doan, you lose a couple of other players. It's quite a bit of roster turnover, but what they've done so far in the offseason is essentially establish you have your top 6 and your bottom 6 pretty heavily. Like, you're going to have the guys that are coming in to be physical, grindy players, adding some depth scoring as well as being overall defensively responsible while also having that top 6 like you need to score and solidifying it a little bit with guys like Alex Young. I think ASU has a solid plan to be a more complete team this year. It's going to be a fun team to watch. So while I did lose 2 of my 3 favorite players in the offseason, I think Coach Powers did a solid job trying to reinvent the team and add back some players to help with the rest of the roster. Seriously, this is going to be a fun season. Anyway, that's all I got for you. It's time for me to go back to doing what I do best, and that's dropping out of community college. Forks up. Hopefully I'll see y'all Friday. How's it going, guys? AZ Sports Guy here, and just like a typical college dropout, I'm doing everything last minute. I didn't get around to covering any of the pairs of games last month, so you know what? I'm gonna do them all in one fell swoop. And to celebrate the occasion, I even bought yet another ASU jersey that I definitely don't need, but I'm gonna buy it anyway because forks up, baby. Let's do it! So ASU started their season on Friday the 13th, hosting number 15th ranked Merrimack, and from what I was told, this one was very boring. I was pretty busy that day. I only got to watch bits and pieces of it, so this one goes all the way to overtime, and the game was kind of described to me that ASU just kept trying the same strategy over and over, and while Merrimack had a lot of momentum early on in the game, they kind of just didn't do anything with it. And then 2 minutes and 33 seconds into the overtime period, Matthew Copperwood is the first goal scorer for ASU for the 2023-24 season, with the assist going to Tim Lovell and Brian Chambers. 1-0 win to start off the season. TJ Septemfelter. 31 saves in this shutout. The dude was a dog, or should I say devil? Yeah, the dude was a devil in this game. He's been phenomenal all season so far. Skip ahead to the next night, the 14th, for the second on the back-to-back, and Merrimack starts off the scoring. Mark Hillier at 8:21 of the second period. But exactly 1 minute later at 9:21, Ryan O'Reilly, not that one, gets his first goal of the season from Brian Chambers and Benji Eckerly. And yes, Brian Chambers has been ridiculous in getting assists this season. And then at 15:26, Merrimack takes the lead back. We're not really going to talk about that. Skip ahead to the third period. At 11:57 on the power play, Lucas Sillinger, his first goal of the season from Matthew Copperwood and Brian Chambers. We are all tied. Then we skip ahead to 19:14. Literally 46 seconds to go in the game. On the power play, Matthew Copperwood, second of the season, second in back-to-back games, from Lovell and Sillinger, giving ASU a 3-2 lead. And then on the empty net, 25 seconds later, Alex Young, his first goal of the season from Tyler Gratton and Ty Murchison. 4-2 finish. ASU sweeps number 15th ranked Merrimack to start the season. TJ gets his second win of the season, going to 2-0 on the year, stopping 28 out of 30 in the process. Then the next weekend, on the 20th and 21st, ASU would host Northern Michigan
Michigan, who was winless heading into this matchup, and Arizona State took advantage of that. While Northern Michigan scores first at 6:32 of the second period, Tim Lovell answers back 2 minutes later, his first of the season, from Lucas Sillinger and Jackson Niedermeyer. A couple of minutes later, at 10:11 of the second period, Kyle Smolin gets his first goal of the season from Benji Eckerly and Ryan O'Reilly. And then a minute and a half later, on the power play, the captain himself, Tyler Gratton, his first goal of the season, giving ASU a 3-1 lead. The assist going to Shane and Lovell, by the way. Side note, I hate how a name spelt S-C-H-O-E-N is pronounced Shane, because now I feel dumb. Northern Michigan would score the third period, doesn't really matter because ASU walks away with a 3-2 victory. TJ Septemfelter. 23 saves, 2 goals against, decent night for him. After sweeping Merrimack, ASU would be ranked 18th in the nation. Arizona State is now 3-0-0 and 1 win away from the best start in program history. And the next night, ASU would do that. Starting off the scoring is Charlie Shane, his first goal of the season, at 6:39 of the second period on the power play. There were a lot of power play goals in this one. Northern Michigan answers back 3 minutes later, we're tied. And then ASU would proceed to score 4 unanswered goals, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab the list and read it to you. Copperroot is third from Sillinger and Chambers in the power play at 11:49 of the second period. Young his second from Gratton and Josh Niedermeyer at 17:20 of the second period. Dylan Jackson his first from Shane and Dowd at 8:54 of the power play in the third period. And Benji Eckerly his first from Smolin and Ryan O'Reilly at 15:57 of the third period. 5-1 domination. ASU starts off the season 4-0-0, the best start in program history, and after this, we're ranked 13th in the nation. Oh, and TJ gets his 4th win of the season, stopping 15 out of 16. Okay night for him. So after being ranked 13th in the nation, ASU would head over to Ohio to take on Miami of Ohio on the 27th and the 28th, and this game started off in ASU's favor. Ty Jackson scoring his first of the season from Dylan Jackson at 1:10 of the first period. Then Miami would answer back, tying the game, before ASU would score 3 unanswered goals. Sillinger is second from the Jackson brothers at 4:30 of the second. Smolin is second from Eckerly and Shane at 13:27 of the second. And Alex Young is third of the season from Dowd and Shane on the power play at 6:27 of the third period, before ASU would just collapse. That was the same night that the D-backs collapsed in Game 1 of the World Series. Same night the Arizona Coyotes blew a 4-1 lead against the Los Angeles Kings. ASU also blew a 4-1 lead. So you know what? I was pretty depressed that night. Anyway, it goes to overtime. 21 seconds into the overtime, Miami scores, and it's a 5-4 loss against Miami of Ohio. And while they had the exact same record, both teams were 4-0-0, Miami of Ohio was not ranked heading into this one, so that probably was going to hurt ASU's rankings. They needed to come back the next game and get a win, and they technically did, but I don't count it, and neither does the NCAA. Gibbs and Homer would get his first game of the season, so Gibby gets a little early season action. Miami scores first at 10:36 of the first period. Arizona State answers back at 2:11 of the second. Lucas Sillinger his third goal of the season from Dylan Jackson. Then we go to overtime, nothing happens, go to a shootout. ASU technically wins in the shootout, but per NCAA rules, that counts as a tie, so I'm going to count it as a tie, and we shouldn't even do the shootout. If the overtime ends and there's no goals, send them home, boys, you tied. Gibby had 22 saves on 23 shots, so he had a pretty good night for his debut in the season. A lot of people forget, and Coach Powers is bringing it up at the end of last season, he was one of the best goalies for the USA National Development Team, so ASU has a couple of good goalies. After dropping one and tying one against Miami of Ohio, ASU would be ranked 16th, so they wouldn't be punished too heavily. They only dropped 3 spots. Tonight and tomorrow, they are hosting Stonehill at Mullet Arena, and I was told this was their first year in the NCAA, but it was brought to my attention last night. I went ahead and fact-checked it this morning. Stonehill actually has a Scottsdale kid on their team, Hunter Hastings, so I don't know why you're playing for Stonehill instead of ASU, but welcome home, buddy. Make sure to cut Hunter a little bit of slack tonight and tomorrow. Stonehill is heading into tonight's game 0-7, so they're winless so far. And considering ASU has some ranked and tough opponents coming up, they need a sweep. This needs to be a clean sweep. ASU cannot come out of this weekend any less than 6-1-1. But anyway, that's all I got for you. ASU with the best start in program history. They were ranked as high as 13th, and the offense at the very least seems to be chugging along. It's doing pretty well, minus the first game of the season and the last game of the month.
but I do expect a high-scoring game tonight. Go Devils.
All right, today I want to talk about ASU. Tonight they are taking on Providence, a very good hockey team. I think they're ranked 5th or 7th last I checked. So let's go ahead and talk about last weekend's matchup hosting Alaska Anchorage in what was ASU's first conference games of the season, 7-2-1 prior to that, ranked number 14th. Anyway, starting off on the 17th on Friday, Ty Jackson is third from Tabakin and Sillinger. It's 1-0. Alaska Anchorage answers back. Then it's 2-1 after Tim Lovell, his third from Sillinger and Dylan Jackson. ASU gets the lead right back. It's tied right back up, but then Matthew Copperwood, his seventh from Lovell and Sillinger. It's a lead again for ASU before it's taken away. And then Charlie Shane, his second from Smolin and Young, 4-3 final. And it was definitely a little more back and forth than I think I would have liked. Obviously, Alaska is a decent team, but a little bit below 500 there. You want to make sure you're taking advantage of those, not gimmies, but in college, you need to win the games you need to win. It is what it is. TJ Septenfelter, 25 saves, 3 goals against, .892 save percentage. Wasn't TJ's best effort, however, he played fine. And the next night, he makes up for it. So on the 19th, because there's a ASU football on that Saturday, there's a couple of times, including this weekend, we get a hockey game on Friday and Sunday. Ryan Alexander is first of the season from Lovell, 1-0 lead. Dylan Jackson is fifth from Copperwood and Sillinger, 2-0. And then a borderline full ice empty net shot. Tabakin is first from Alami and Alexander. 3-0 finish, 21 saves, no goals against. Shutout for TJ Septenfelter. And after that, this team is ranked 13th overall. They go up once in the rankings. Obviously, in college, it comes down to who you're beating, how you're beating them. I can't imagine the sweep would have ever got them, up a couple extra spots. So maybe that being as close as it was, maybe that knocked them down one. No idea. I'm not going to pretend I know how college rankings work because there's like 3 or 4 different polls, 2 that matter, but 1 that matters more. But sometimes they're using technically they were ranked 13th last week, but 14th in the poll that everyone cares about, and now it's 13th in that poll. I don't get college. I don't. But Arizona State continuing their best start in program history, a much better team than last year, which you would not suspect when you lose Robert Mastrosimone and Josh Doan, your 2 best offensive players, but the rest of the team is just kind of showed up. Obviously, you had the one blowout loss to Denver, but the night before that, they beat them in overtime in what was every single year I'm watching this team, they keep replacing the biggest win in program history. I think last year they had 2 of them. UND and then Minnesota State. They upset them once at home and split that series. That actually jumped them up from like 16th to 13th/14th. So they're at least playing well enough. The only thing you don't really have too much of a sample size of is their road record so far, but I plan on talking about that later. I am rambling. Anyway, go check out the game tonight against Providence. Should be a pretty solid matchup. And then again on Sunday. Alright, so I'm going to be on my way to California when the second matchup happens tomorrow. So I figured, why not? I was actually stationed in the refs tunnel, so I got to watch the entire game. Very pleasant surprise. But numbers 9 Providence heading into number 13 Arizona State. And it was a very fun game to watch, so go ahead and jump right into it. 13 minutes, 41 seconds into the first period. Alex Young, his 4th from Lucas Sillinger and Josh Niedermeyer. Josh N, because honestly I just need to know which, if it's Josh or Jackson. Then you have back-to-back goals by Providence in the second period, once in the power play at 7:40, the other one at 12:05. So it's 2-1. Momentum's kind of shifting over. Honestly, I'll talk about TJ a little more. I'll talk about Septenfelter a little bit later, but played really well in that first period. Alex Young ties it up 2.5 minutes after the second Providence goal. It's his 5th goal of the season, unassisted. It's good to see Alex Young getting a multi-goal game. He was brought in to be a big goal scorer, and he's starting to play better now. That's good to see. Then you have Gamachi. I hope I'm saying that name properly. 3-2, and this is in the second period at 14:33. Tyler Gratton is 6th from Copperwood, and Chambers ties it back up. That's in the third period. I think I missed one here. That was a goal that was taken back in the third period. For Providence, it was an offside call. It was a good goal, but offside, so obviously not a good goal, but it's a good shot, good opportunity. You know what I'm trying to say. And then we go to overtime, and or at least the end of the third period. So Matthew Copperwood's on the board here because it was
in either overtime or the end of the third period. I think it was overtime because it was in third period. Then I'm getting two plays confused. I'll talk about it because Ty Jackson ends up getting a similar play. So, end of the third period, Matthew Copperwood gets boarded. He ends up leaving the game. He did return to the bench for overtime. However, that does not give any indication whether or not he's going to play in the future. Really sucks. He's been the leading scorer, been really good this year, and he finally was having a healthy season. Last couple of years, he's been dealing with some injuries. But so he did return to the bench, go to overtime. There was a lot of noise by the student section after the Copperwood play, go to overtime. Ty Jackson gets boarded as well. It's on a delayed penalty. He gets it up for his brother Dylan, all the way down the ice, and scores his 6th of the season. So we have Alex Young scoring 2 to get him to 5, and then Gratton and Jackson each getting their 6th. I think that's a three-way lead for the leading goal scorer if you add Matthew Copperwood. That going from Ty Jackson and Tim Lovell. 4-3 finish in overtime. ASU gets a big win, and they've been playing pretty well against ranked opponents. Against Denver, they split that series in Game 1 for the first 30 or so minutes. It looked like they were gonna sweep that series. And Providence, they came out, and one thing I noticed is that Providence played a very good defensive game. I did not know too much about Providence heading into this one. I kind of like having the blind run, but Providence is a very talented defensive team, and Arizona State did find a way. Little bit by little bit to get those chances, to get those goals, and TJ Septemfelter had a massive night. 35 saves, 3 goals against. I thought it was a little more, but the official score says 35 saves, but I thought there was 41 total shots, so might be 38, but I'm going with what I officially see there. And I said the joke on Twitter, I'm going to repeat it right here. I do hope the T in TJ stands for Timothy, because he is Timothy Septemfelter, with how great he's played, and especially in these bigger games they've needed. Look, playing ranked opponents, they're not playing bad. Playing the teams that aren't ranked, also playing pretty solid. At Mullet as a whole, they're playing solid. They're one of 4 teams right now that have 10 wins. That's a pretty big company. And I think the work that Coach Powers and whatnot are doing with this program, this program could be a really good program in the next 5 years. Let's put it that way. But it's a solid effort against Providence. There was a Territorial Cup tonight, so the next matchup is tomorrow. Like I said, I'll be on the way to California, so I won't be there to cover that one. So I wanted to at least give you this, and when I come back, I plan on doing a couple of videos on the D1 women's and men's club team, as well as this team. I might wait until I get back just so I can get the second Providence game in, but I might do with the notes I had prior, so maybe you see that, maybe you don't. But anyway, ASU wins by a final score of 4-3, forks up. I know I'm too old to pretend I'm in college, but, you know, I'm pretty irresponsible. I can fit in. Alright, so let's talk about the, at the time, ranked number 14th overall Arizona State hockey program, and what was their hottest start as a program. And technically it was through the first 4 games. They never started off 4-0 before. But you know what? Let's go ahead and jump into it, and then maybe you'll see a November report. Maybe not. I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to cover the team throughout the year, but I thought this would be fun. So, the year starts off on Friday the 13th, hosting number 15th ranked Merrimack. They win that one by a final score of 1-0 in overtime. Matthew Copperwood with the game winner. Next night, 4-2 win, a more decisive victory. I believe it's what started them off ranked like 16 or something like that. Then you host Northern Michigan the next weekend on the 20th and 21st, winning 3-2 and 5-1 respectively. Look, Northern Michigan, I'm not going to say it's a terrible program or anything, but if ASU wants to make that tournament run, you got to beat them. They do. Then they go on their first road games to end the month of October. The 27th and 28th, they are at Miami of Ohio, and their first loss of the season comes at a 5-4 overtime loss, and that was a game that I'm pretty sure on the exact same night, the Coyotes and the D-backs all blew leads that night. So that was a pretty fun night, wasn't it? They were up at 1 point 4-1, and they let go of the lead, 3 unanswered goals in the third period, lose that one in overtime, and then Gibbs and Homer gets to start the next night. It's a 1-1 tie. Technically, ASU wins it in the shootout. It's officially a tie. I'm not going to talk too much about that. Then against Stonehill. So TJ did not play that weekend. That was all Gibby. You get an overtime win against Stonehill 5-4, and then a little better of a win in regulation 3-2 the next night. Gibby looked pretty good. I'd say ASU had a sloppy game on the third. And Stonehill, hey, they came to play. They got something to prove. Good for them. It's good to see more competition. Then they host number 2 Denver. They only have, I think, 1 win all time against this team. On the 10th and 11th, they host them. Overtime win 65 the first game, and the next night they're up at one point in the second period, I think 3-0 or 3-1, and then at that point Denver's a better team. Denver is a better team. They are perpetually a top 5 team. However, that loss did knock them down to 3, and then they had another loss the next weekend. They're currently 4, so hey, maybe ASU starts that, but it's an 8-4 loss. ASU, granted, they did keep pushing. The problem is Denver is just a better team. I got nothing else to add there. Denver's the better team. Alaska Anchorage, 4-3 victory. That one, I think, narrowly just avoided the overtime, but you need to not have the 1-goal games, and they not really a blowout, but they sweep them and shut them out the next night, 3-0, 9-2-1 record. If we take into account the first game against Providence, who was number 9 ranked heading into it, they are 10-2-1. Their home record is 9-1-0, but it would be 10-1-0 away. They're 0-1-1. They're going to have some road games coming up. They have a chance to improve that record. Conference, the only conference teams they've played is Alaska because they're still technically independent, so they're 2-0-0, and against ranked teams, they are 3-1-0 or 4-1-0 if we count the Providence game. You know what? I should probably just... where's my marker? Look, Providence. They win that 4-3 in overtime on... yeah, whatever that date was. Anyway, let's continue. So, the goal-scoring leaders. Lucas Sillinger, at that point, so we're not counting the Providence game for this, but at that point, 12 games, 5 goals, 11 assists, 16 points. Really good season for him. Goal-scoring lead is still Matthew Copperoo, but Copperoo, 12 games, 7 goals, 5 assists, 12 points. Really good season for him. Tim Lovell, 10 games, 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points. Dylan Jackson, 12 games, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points. There were about 4 players all tied with 8. I ran out of room, so Tyler Gratton, the captain, let's go ahead and just give him a C right here. Boom. And I'm pretty sure Silly is a alternate. And I think Copper is the other. Anyway, I'm getting distracted here. So Tyler Gratton, 12 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. Charlie Shane, I still hate how that name is spelled, but there you go. I know how to pronounce it properly now. 11 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. Solid season for him, getting some pretty good time now. Brian Chambers, 12 games, 1 goal, 7 assists, 8 points. Those are your leading goal scorers through the first 13 games. Did I miscount? Yeah, well, technically 12, but 13 games anyway. TJ Septenfelter, 7-2-0 record, 2.64 goals against, 905 save percentage. Solid season. He has been blown up a couple of times. Miami of Ohio and Denver are the games he got blown up a little bit. And then Gibson Homer, Gibby, 2-0-1, 223 goals against, 911 save percentage. Gibby has been really good. That's probably as good of a backup as you can ask for. And should TJ decide to move on after this year, you got someone that could probably step in next year. Should he take the extra year and play throughout his senior year, Gibby's going to have to wait one more year. But at the very least, he's doing a good job getting good goalies. There you go. That's the update of the first part of the season. ASU is exceeded all expectations. It was the best start in program history. They were 4-0, first time that's ever happened. They beat a ranked opponent back-to-back to end to start the season, and Merrimack ended up getting knocked out of the rankings. They, at least last I checked, have not returned. So maybe there's a bit of an effect. You go play against Arizona State, you drop in the rankings. Anyway, I think this team's better than last year. And it's weird because it's not even so much addition by subtraction. You lose Mastro, you lose Donor, you lose Kumo, Grando, a couple really good players. And yet they get a bunch of role guys, a bunch of overagers that, well, gotta have the role players out there playing their roles, doing everything you need to. Tyler Gratton is on pace to have better offense this year than the last couple of years at Penn State. There's something there. Maybe he's had a bigger role here than he did otherwise. But this team just feels more complete. They feel like you know who your scorers are, you know who your definitive top 6 is, and your bottom 6 pretty much has to bring a lot of the sandpaper, and they seem to be a tough team to play against, and they've only lost a few times. Literally, only lost 2 times so far, and one of them was against the second best team, the second ranked team in the nation. Yeah, no, there's nothing to hang your head low on that one. So there's a report for the first 12 games, and you'll see some more of me covering ASU throughout the week.
Alright, this will likely be my final ASU video but before I leave for vacation. I think I have one more video planned, but it'll be Coyotes related. 'Cause I gotta get ready to go, but I want to give the ASU ACHA D3 team some love, the men's club team, because I can't even follow them very well, so I guarantee not a lot of people in my audience even know we had a D3 team. So let's start off with the D3 boys, and D2, D1, men's and women's will be coming later. Anyway, so we start off on October 6th at University of New Mexico with a 4-2 victory. The next night on the 7th, a 5-4 overtime loss, putting them at 500. Then they get to go to GCU on October 20th and 21st, a 7-2 and 6-1 win respectively. Not exactly surprised. ASU club teams tend to be better than GCU club teams. Then they go on the road. I think these games are all played in Utah, but I could be mistaken. It was some sort of road tournament. On the 26th, 27th, and 29th, on the 26th, Signal Valley, a 6-3 loss. They beat Adrian College 8-1. They lose to Oakland 3-1, and they get to come home. They finally get their first home games on the 19th and 20th, hosting Air Force. And I was working during this one, I think that one too, but I was working during this one, and I'm like, oh, wow, that sucks. They come home and lose. Air Force is undefeated. They're 10-0-0-0 so far in D3 ACHA play this year, so I can't exactly blame them. A 3-2 loss and 7-2 loss, respectively. The record being 4-4-1-0 or 4-4-0-1. The club gets a little weird with the records. They're 9th in the independent division. Right behind them are NAU at 10 and GCU at 11, so it's good to see that Arizona State is above the other Arizona schools. Then we get to go to the leading scorers. I'm going to butcher at least two of these guys' names, but I'm going to try for you, gosh darn it. Jason Horner, 9 games, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points, the leading scorer on the team, but not the leading goal scorer. That goes to Connor Sakari. I'm going to go with that, and if I am incorrect, Connor, I do apologize. 9 games, 8 goals, 3 assists, 11 points. Then we get Keegan Wetterberg, 9 games, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points. Cade Gramlich, 9 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Mason Nowak, 9 games, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. Also tied with him, Zachariah Yurkanin. First and foremost, that is a badass name. Secondly, it sounds like if his name was just Zach, the kind of name I would pull up as a meme, like when I call Jack McBain Jackery. Anyway, 9 games, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. Braden Fisher's how we're going to end this one out. 8 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. And to my knowledge, there was no relation to Christian Fisher. We got the goalies to go over. We're going to start off with the backup goaltender. Gage, I'm going to say Guay. Gage Guay. Anyway, 1-0-0-1, 3-4-6, 720 save percentage. Not having an amazing start to the season. Nicholas Spagnardi. Spagnardi? The G is probably silent. I told you I was going to mess up a couple of these names, but I am trying. 3-4-0-0, 329 goals against, 900 save percentage. Solid performance out of him. And the D3 boys, despite getting no real consistency, having these massive breaks, they don't play again until I think late December, early January. Most of the teams have pretty much all of December off except for the D1 NCAA team. And it's just interesting that I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't have known the D3 team existed if I had not seen them on the schedule for ice time. But there you go. They're starting off not bad. 4-4-1-0. Not a bad record to start off. You got a couple really good goal scorers. They're playing good against they're playing well against the other Arizona schools, and they're above them in standings. All I really care about. So there you go. That's the first half of the season for the D3 club team.